Yeah, that's what we want to test. I believe so as well, because if we look at the molds, and they cannot be much different. So I agree with Per that, and I hope that this will end up like the Optimus with different brands, and the quality of the boat is what makes the difference. But we'll start working on that now in November, testing the different boats, and well.
But the only thing I was just doing to mention here, because I hear rumors now that the producer can start to make the top section by themselves. Then you talk about big difference, because the mast and the sail is the biggest thing, and the sail, the sail is come from the two different producer, but the top mast, if you can make it stiffer or lighter, I think that's going to be a good thing. So you can have a softer mast if you are a light person, and you can have stiffer if you are more fit than heavy.
Until now, this is not happening yet. For the games or walls, this will not happen. So now we will be testing all these things as soon as they come up, and the hulls will be tested this November. Yeah. So another point that I believe that everybody knows is that we have 3 different rigs. I'm not explaining new things here. And it's all related with the bottom section. So the rest of the hull, sail, and the material is the same. You only need to change the bottom section and the sail, and you can upgrade your boat from the 4.7 to the radial and then to the standard. From my experience coaching 4.7s, radials, and a standard at all different levels, I have to say that techniques are not so much difference. The biggest difference with the sails is that especially the radial sail is really, really deep compared to the standard sail, especially in the middle. And the radial sails are sails that need to be flattened earlier and much more than we do with the standard. Then we can enter in the different specifications and techniques of every sailor, because every sailor like to sail a little different. But main picture, I will say, radial is the sail that we need to flatten earlier from Outfall, Cunningham, and Kicker. The 4.7 depends on the heavies that they are the kids. We can have it a bit more deeper, and then on the standard, we are more and more going to a little bit flatter sail than in the past, but still outfall is important to have it deeper. And we trim a lot with the new systems, especially with the Cunningham and the Kicker. These 2 controls are the ones that we use the most, and the outfall is the last one. The outfall it helps the last quarter of the sail. With the Kicker and with the Cunningham, you play with the top, middle, and the 3rd quarter of the sail. So this is something that will come later as well when we start to discuss about how to trim and how to sail in different wind conditions. But as a overall upwind, coming from the rigs, I think we know that the radial sail is the deeper one. The radial sail is the one that we need to flatten earlier, and that the performance of the boat is not worse if the sail is flatter. With the standard, it is. We can agree on that. No, Per? Flatter you have the sail, worse it is, or not on the standard?
Yeah, no. I think the new standard sail is deeper, so it changed a little bit last years, but people get more fit also, so yeah.
We have a better control on the lead thanks to the radial sail. That's so on the standard it was a big change, not only because of the carbon top section, but also because of the radial sail. And what we've seen on our test is that with the carbon top section that is stronger than the aluminium, especially sideways, it was much more difficult to go in a low mode. That's something that we do with the wind in the past. It was slower and faster as possible, but this sail is not allowing us to increase the speed as much as it was with the old sail going in low mode. The acceleration is really quick as soon as we release the main sheet and we open it, but then it's better to go up and to go close to head to wind as possible. In the past, we were just close to reach, increasing the speed more and more. Now it's not as good as before on this. Yeah. So coming back to the difference between the boats, is about the weight, no, and the height. 4.7 also has restrictions about the year, so you need to change the boat when you become 17, if I'm not wrong. But then the radial and then the standard is mainly about weight and age. So myself, I am a 44, 45. I will not jump on the standard. My weight maybe is ideal, but my power is very weak. So for me, it will be better to be in the radial. If there are questions or you want to dig more in this, I'm not sure, Jens, about how much we need to start from the basics, so I can move forward to a little bit more deep and more detailed things.
I think you can move forward.
Good. So once I that, I don't want to talk about the techniques yet. I would like to talk about the system, but more than to talk myself, I would like to ask if you have any question about the system, different systems from the Kicker, Outfall, Cunningham that you would like to raise, because I think that this is also quite an obvious matter, but I don't want to jump it. If somebody has questions about how to rig any or to mount any of the new system, which one do you think is better? We'll be happy to answer questions. No? Good. What I would like just to is that with the new two-strap system is something we're using, and we believe that the clit system, it helps a lot, and it makes much more easy and comfortable to trim it. And if we have the correct two-strap position, then the hiking is much easier, and then the sail trim will be better. So we start. I would like to start from the two-strap position, and then I will say if something it's been improved on the laser lately is this system. I think it helps a lot, and it will help the sailors to sail the boat faster. So, yeah.
I think it's important that any of you stop Anton as soon as you have a question. Don't feel shy. Just go on and ask questions.
But I just have a comment, because the hiking strap is really important, because if you change boat or borrow a boat and the hiking strap is longer and shorter, then you use different muscles. So I think it's really important that you have almost the same length if you borrow a boat, have your own boat, because I felt like when I was sailing and you was a little bit lazy on it and you have a little looser what you're used to, you use complete other muscles. So if you want to keep longer in the race, use the same muscle and same length of the hiking strap.
Yep, I completely agree with Per, and I believe that the speed of the boat starts on the two-strap, and then because that's the position that you will have while hiking. We all coaches, we used to look at the sail, mast, and then the tactics and the boat. I would like you all to start looking at the feet position of your sailors. We need to start moving from a release two-strap to a tight two-strap. How tight or how loose, it will depend on the length and the power of the sailors. But earlier we start tightening the two-strap and making the two-strap as attached to the boat and to the sailor, easier will be for them to start to work on the proper muscles and to hike better on the boat. And this will mean at the end better speed. So my first really comment to this group is that look at the two-strap, make it as tight as possible for your sailors, and start from releasing the two-strap to them, not to tighten it more. Do you understand why? Do you want any more deep So tighter you will be, legs will be flatter, your upper body will be more out. And this is one of the main positions that we are using. The second one is with the legs a little bit more in V. Yeah. For this one, you can release a little bit more the two strap and have a little bit looser. So it depends also on the technique of your sailors, but we cannot, all the sailors needs to be really well attached to the two strap if they want the boat to go fast. Okay. Systems is easy then, no? Two strap is the most important to me, but we are also now with the new generation of ropes. One thing that we realize is that the stronger the ropes that hold bigger tensions are the best ones. We're using especially on the Cunningham a rope that is very, very hard. Yeah. There is a question. There is a question on the chat, but it's in Norwegian.
Yeah.
So maybe first answer it.
Ja, svarer du, Per?
Jeg ser ikke noe spørsmål, men jeg kanskje litt klønete.
Ja, det altså et spørsmål. Han snakker om two-strap. Det ristroppen.
Ja, nei, jeg tar på norsk, i hvert fall lettere. Det som viktig når du skal justere ristroppen, at du skal prøve å ha leggen og nærmest knehalsen ned på båten. Jo større avstand mellom kneet, baksiden av kneet og båten, jo mer henger du ned med rumpa. Så vi prøver at man skal prøve å seile og henge rettest mulig ut. Vi vet at med en gang man sitter med rumpa for mye ned i vannet, at da vil folk krenge litt mer automatisk for ikke å få subbe rumpa i vannet. Så der det viktig å prøve å stramme opp hofteleddsbøyeren og knærne og prøve å ha rettest mulig ben. Det vil gjøre best sitteposisjon, og du får mest mulig ut av det. Men det tungt, men du må bare venne seg til, for vi vet at hvis folk har for mye bøy i knærne, det kan være vondt for knærne senere. Så dette egentlig veldig viktig å få det riktig, men når vi på samlingen nå i vintersamlingen, så skal jeg se og vise og lære litt. Ja, det nye systemet det har vi brukt, men jeg jo gammel, så jeg liker det gamle systemet, men det greit å prøve litt forskjellig.
Good.
Okay. Now I would like to share the screen. Let's see if I can do it properly now, because I wanted with it a couple of measurements of the top of the mast. We did also with Prevent. We did it together with a sailmaker that Per knows really well. Is a Finnish guy that measures all the mast for fin mast. So what we wanted is just to test with the same kilos if the carbon top sections were bending differently. I don't know if you can see all the numbers here, the internal distance especially, or the middle point. What we can see is that the weights are a little bit different, not too much. The one that is at the bottom, it says Rob ET2. This is an aluminum one, and that's the biggest difference on weight and also on the middle point difference. If you go to the middle point, we say 74, and then the without weight is 0. Then the other one is 74.5. So all of them had very, very similar numbers from not only this, but we measure, I think, up to 20 masts, and all came with a similar, very similar numbers. This is the way that we did measure them. And then what we did is to look at the internal distance of the mast, and some of them had, if we go now, a little bit different, but like maximum was 0.8 millimeters. And that's a mistake of the guy that is putting it, thinking that will be any difference if my mast is longer or shorter. because if we have the black piece closer to the end of the mast, we have a little bit longer mast compared to the one that is maximum up. But what we've seen with all the measurements that we did and putting the weight here on the top was that there are no mass difference at all. So they were pretty similar. We've been changing the bottom sections and the top section, doing mixes and testing different combinations, and the distances and the curve of the mass were quite similar, all of them. Yeah, we also did the same with the bottom sections to see the bottom sections were also bending differently. And the conclusion is that at this moment, with the bunch of material we're having, everything is pretty similar. No big difference at this moment in all the tests that we did. Since then, what we realize is that there are two big differences, really. And one is on the sales, and the other one, stupid that it looks like, is with the buttons. So we started to play more with the buttons than with mast or bottom sections, and thinking more on the buttons than mast or bottom sections. And we spent like a couple of or 3 months just changing and testing and putting them, changing all of them. And we end up with one conclusion. These are details that are much smaller than all the activity that we can train on the water. Meaning, if I can now exit this and coming back to you. Meaning that for us, all these tests that we did on the mast, sails, and buttons either did end up is that we need to be more focused on how to make the boat fast, how to start better, how to tack and jibe better, and how to race better. I believe that the material is important. I believe that the material, we need to have it ready to race, but the focus needs to be much more on how to train than which material we're using. Of course, we cannot sail with a bent bottom section or top section. Yeah, we need to have it spot on. We need to have it ready to race. But yeah, in all our measurements, the result has been the same. Yeah, focus on how to hike better, how to train better.
But anyway, it's like equipment is really important, because everybody knows if you're a little bit faster, it's going to be so much more easy. So I think the sail and the mast, if you have good condition, and I think like a lot of sailors can actually weigh the boat, because there is the thing, because all boats soaking water. So because I was reading in Seahorse, so then I was testing a laser, and one boat was 2 kilo more heavy, and there was a big speed difference. So I think yeah, that's the thing. I think the sail and the mast is almost, and all boats is not really good. Also, we know the new laser, the last 3-4 years, the light blue, ice blue boats are really good compared to the other ones, and it's going to help the speed. But for the best guys, everybody had the best equipment anyway, so it's not so big there. But for our sailors in Norway, that's a big improvement we can do.
I agree. What I wanted just to show is that on the mast, the difference is more about how you have your own material, that you have to have your material ready to compete. Yeah, it's not to test different mast, different. Yeah. Now we wanted to enter on the sails. The sails, we have 3 brands for the standard, 2 brands for the radials and the 4.7s. And the most important is that we didn't find a brand that is better than the other ones. We found sails that are better than the other ones. Yeah, and this makes a big difference on speed. And the sails differences that we found is more because of the cloth they are made, because the cloths, there are different branches of cloth made in difference, and it's not about how they produce the sail, because 3 they have the same. It's the same mold, they do it with the same molds, but Sometimes the cloth is not as good as the other one. Sometimes it stretches more than the other one. Sometimes it's a bit more tighter than the other one. And this is something that we cannot control, unfortunately. Yeah? So yes, there are differences on the sales, not so much about the same maker, but about the cloth. Yeah. If I had to say one big difference on the laser standard is that the North sails that come, they are a little bit longer than the other two brands. Yeah. Longer and it's faster.
I think just in the radial class, they've been also really big. You can get brand new sails who are really soft, and that's really hard for light sailors. But you know, it's not easy because I went to the factory some weeks ago and the sail are just as big as bag. You can't just open up all the bags. So I think you can be lucky or you can not be lucky. But I think in the end here, it's like maybe you have one or two sails. You can actually choose the light material, the softer cloth when it's a little less wind, and you use the stiffer ones when it's strong wind, because we know have a new sail when it's windy, it helps a lot. Sail with a baggy old sail is almost impossible. Especially I talk about in the Radial and 4.7. Standard is like sail keep longer. So yeah. I think that's the thing. So if you maybe have two sails, look at it and maybe make up your mind and maybe write some notes in the corner of the sail so you can actually choose the right sail for the regatta.
Yeah. And it's true that once the sail gets old, it gets deeper, it changes the shape, and then the boat speed is completely different. So I believe that if the sailor feels that the boat is not going as fast as before, it may be that the sail became older, and usually, as Per said, it's really difficult to control the boat, or much more difficult to control the boat then. So material-wise, I will be more aware of when to change the sail at this moment than the rest of the material.
But then, I think also since I have kids, so also been sailing, you know, everything is expensive here. We want to save so much money as possible. Sometimes it's better to buy like a fake sail, like not original sail to use for training, than use an old one. Because I see in my club people have old sails, especially radial sails, are so deep you can almost not using it. And you can actually buy a fake sail for maybe 150 euro or something. You can get a brand new sail. So I think sometimes it's better to do, especially in the 4.7. So you can actually save your regatta sail for regattas, because some people don't just have one sail, and that's maybe a new one, and that's not really good to use for training. Of course, it's good to have new sails for training, but you know, if you come to regatta and the sail is starting to get old, it's not really good.
Yeah, at our level with Herman or now or with Line as well, we train with nearly brand new sails all the time, because then we cannot find this top speed or these little differences, or we cannot really dig into the details. But this is only for us at Olympic level. I completely agree with Per that these fake sails are very, very useful for the most of the sailors, and it reduces the budget quite a lot. So yeah, use the laser sail, keep it new for the events, and if you have the possibility, use other material as well of the sails. And yeah, no questions? Easy. Then about the hull, yeah. Here we enter in a different world, and next step will come as we started before. The laser hull is pretty simple to build with just requirements, but we all know that you can make some. You can ask different things on the boat, especially, and the most important is the mast rake. With the weight, they will never tell you the weight, except for a few that they can go to the factory. But the rest of us, we can order the mast rakes. Yeah.
But I just know now when I talked to Devota when I was there, you know, the rules from laser class was like, if you're going to follow it 100%, you're not going to make the boat for the minimum weight.
Yeah.
So I think now people try to develop a little bit to make the boat not lighter, but light as possible, because they have problems if you're gonna follow it complete. So they maybe make a little bit thinner gel coat. Put some more glass fiber around the centerboard case, because they can actually move a little bit stuff around. And the thing that what they told me was like, is a the polyester what they're using to make the boat. The polyester is so extremely wide, you can actually get polyester who almost the same standard like epoxy. So now they're trying to do what the brand, because they say the rule, the boat gonna make it polyester, but the polyester world is so big, so they're gonna be so big difference there. So you can actually make some really stiff boats, but still hold their own rule. But it's gonna be more expensive.
Yeah. So what I will only advise is that, especially the club level, is that use your time to have the boat dry inside. Use some time to maybe ask for the mast rake, but what you need to use the time is to sail and to train and to have your sailors as fit as possible to hike as long as possible on the boat. This will be the way to make them improve. Yeah. Of course, I want to have all my boats ready, clean, polished, and ready to fight to win. But the most important parts are in the physical aspect and the technical parts. Yeah. Well, now, if there are no questions about this, I would like to enter in a completely different part of our job as coaches, and I do say is how to achieve our sailors' goals. Because one thing that we started now is with the material, the boat. Later is a quite simple class on this, but how to get our sailors ready when the proper competition comes. I think this is one of our biggest challenges as a coach. And this requires a lot of time and planning and thinking in advance. So how I like to work is having a main goal that is shared with my sailors. I need to know which are my sailors' needs to achieve this goal. And then I plan the calendar thinking on this goal, or sometimes we have more than one goal during the season. I know that in different sports, they are focused only on one peak. They call it the peak. For me as a coach, depending on my sailors, I will have 1-2 peaks, or I will have just a process to get into my goal. And this goal can be next season or can be in 3-4 years' time, depends on my sailors' development. Especially with the youth, I think it's important to have 1 or 2 goals like the national. But especially what is important is a key factor is how to develop them, how to make them grow and to make them better. And for this, I believe a lot on the how to perform and how to improve my performance, because if I am better on every single aspect that I need to be on the boat, the results will come. If I am only focused on the result, this is just one moment of the season that I have to pick, and this for some sailors is good, but for most of them is very, very difficult, and it's a lot of pressure. So it's also how to deal with that pressure. So I will say that to achieve my goal, listening on my sailors' needs and knowing the calendar, what I need to understand is what I need to train every single training to get my sailors perform better at the moment at this event. Because for me as a coach, if they are ready in front of the competition, it's because we did train all that we needed to train, and then the performance will be there, and then the results most probably will come. Yeah. So to do that, I like to plan from the main event that I want to be there with the other events that I will have, and then planning some trainings and from the trainings, adding the physical part of it, and always balancing the time that my sailors have with the time that I need on the water and the time that they need to be on the gym. And if I can show it easy, I will say that now that we finished the Europeans 1 week ago. So now it's time to rest for Herman in this case, and it will be time to rest for 1 more week, and then he will start with the physical part, no water, only physical, and then we will start with the trainings on the water, but the trainings on the physical part will be more important than the trainings on the water. Because what I need is to have him as strong as possible at the end of the year for the games next season. So now what I need is for 3 months that he needs to improve his physical part. And the physical part starts to improve with the physical coach and the gyms and doing a lot of different exercises, and then having the balance on the boat. So if I have put up a scale, this is going down, this is the physical part in the beginning, and less sailing, a lot of physics, and then at the end it needs to go in the middle, needs to be more equal, and at the end is much more on the boat than on the physical part. So this is for me a very simple way to explain all the job that is behind. And if I share the screen again, I can put some examples here. This is one calendar, for example, that we use, and all the different colors of the races, events, or the physical trainings, where to do it. And if you see from December, January, the blues are not there anymore because we had the Europeans in Canarias in February that year, 2016. So we were reducing a lot the physical part to increase much more the trainings on the water. This doesn't mean that all this period in September until December we didn't train on the water. No. Our sessions were quite long, can be 3 hours and a half, depends on the wind, can be 1 hour and a half. But I was prioritizing how they were working on the gym and what we were doing on the water to end up in February at the Europeans as good as possible. And how to deal with that is a very difficult question, very difficult balance, especially for us at the Olympic level. I can explain that last year, 2019, we did horrible Europeans in Porto, Jens know, we were there quite sad. And also really bad Worlds afterwards, a couple of months later, because we were not able to control well enough the trainings before the Europeans. And we did work too much before the Europeans, and that end up with the sailors really tired at the Europeans and not recover at all during the Worlds. But they were at their best moment 1 month after during the pre-Olympic in Hiroshima. So for us, it's super important. But I would like you all coaches to start to think that the physical part on this boat is a key factor. And for the kids, 4.7 and radials, I think that the most important part is to get as long trainings as possible. These skis that you do in Norway are magnific. Herman became really strong since young because to ski, I think, is the best that you can do. And I would like to emphasize the core training. Of course, legs, quadriceps are important. Of course, all the aerobic part is a key. Yeah. So now in the base, please make your sailors as good as possible aerobically, but don't forget the core. Because of the core, or the lack of core, we're having the most of the back and injuries and some of the injuries on the knees. It all come because the core is not well trained from youth. Yeah, Jens.
It's a question from one of the participants. How many sailing days and how many physical days do the best sailors have?
Well, we did in one season with Herman from July to May, so it was a short season because then we went. We did 500 hours. So usually we do 650 hours on the water per year, and I can say that they will be more or less the same on the gym and bike and all the exercises. That's an Olympic level. Now this year that the Olympic comes will be with a better on quality, less on quantity on the hours on the water and hours on the physical part, because most of the job is done. Yeah, but it took us 5 years since we started in January 2015 until now to stop running behind the others. Yeah. Because physically we're running behind the others. Yeah.
And it's maybe also important to emphasize then that actually of those 650 hours on the water, most of them are physical at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they are very physically demanding. Yeah. The thing is also that is one thing that I'm super happy working with the Norwegians is that the physical coaches at the Olympic Committee, they understood easily, especially because of their background and all that I was working with Per, Eivind or Christian, that we cannot have a close physical plan, because if we are sailing 5 days a week or 6 days a week, we don't know the wind that we'll have or how intense it will be. So sailors and coaches, we need to adapt the physical program to the water, or the program on the water to the physical activity that they have. That's why for me, this scale going from the physical to the technical is very important, because this balance is what will give at the end the best performance.
I just make a commenting here. Like I think we are quite lucky to live in Norway, because we have the winter season, so we can actually use the time in gym and train, ski, cross-country ski, and this stuff. So we actually have time. If you live in Spain, you actually need to go sailing every day, but we can't do it. So we actually have time to do this physical training. That's the reason why it's not really important to do so a lot of sailing right now, but now we do physical trainings. But before the Easter time, that's where we need to put in hour in sailing. So then maybe you should not spend so much time in the gym and biking and running stuff, but then you should put some more time into the sailing, because we know the season starts just after Easter time. So that's the reason why we should try to, from now to like mid-March, to train as much as we can. And everybody here, I think everybody knows actually what you need to train on.
Yeah, for me, as a coach from the Olympic team, to receive the sailors with such a good base, that's a gift, because I believe that one of the strongest points of you Norwegians is that during the winter you can do a lot of this cross country or a lot of training on the snow, and this makes your base really good to train afterwards. Yeah. So as Per says, yeah, I use this time, this winter, autumn time, to improve your physical part, to learn a little bit about the tactics and the strategics, and the boat is not so much needed if you can improve the technical part of it, and then of course sail a lot as soon as possible.
But also, as a good thing is like when you do a lot of training, you look so forward to go sailing in the Easter and end of March, and I think that's also a good thing. So you not get really bored, and you look so forward to it, because that's was my problem with my Olympic sailings, was like I didn't have this 1 year off, so I didn't miss the sailing, so I was a little bit bored. But now when the winter season comes, I think that's really good, so people are really keen for sailing. I put some more hours into it.
Then you can bike. You have the snow in Stavanger, you can bike, no? Yeah. Swim will be difficult as well, no? I believe. Yeah, but this is one of the most important points to me, and I would like to emphasize on it again, and it's that better physically these kids raise up, easier for them will be to compete. Easier for them will be to hike on the boat longer. Easier will be for them to enjoy this boat, and easier for them will be to have all these tactical experiences, which I think is the key of a big fleet. But if we are not fit, if we are not on the right weight, this boat is so demanding that it's very, very hard for the sailors to keep up and to continue. So if we are equal on the physical part, then the races are equal and that most technical, tactical guy will win. But if not, it's just a physical part, important one. So if physically they are not well prepared, the sailor that will be better prepared physically will be faster and most probably have the best result at the end. Yeah. So before we start to talk a lot about the technical stuff, this is a key factor and help your sailors to get better physically. Yeah.
But also, like I try to tell my sailors is like this: everything we can do thinking about, we need to do. That's like be prepared for getting the right equipment, get fit, eat properly, enough sleep, stuff like this. You know, in the regatta, if the wind turns 20 degrees to one side or something, nothing we can do about. But things we can do about is like these things we're talking about now. That's a key factor to have good results.
Yep. So once we talk about all this physical power we just pointed out, so to me is this endurance, as much as better prepare on the legs possible, the core, please don't forget the core, and then we have the explosivity on the same time. So this boat is physically very demanding, but it's also making these sailors much better physically, and I think this is also a really good lesson for life. And to make these youngsters to enjoy the physical part of it is something that is up to us. Yeah, and this is not only for sailing; it's also for the life experiences and for the life living. It's I think it's really good, and we coaches need to also support all these things and encourage them to get fitter and better, especially the young ages at the club level. Yeah. So prepare some routine, something for them. Enjoy the time outdoors with them. Make a team because this boat it helps a lot to the team and with the team, and if the team does things together, then you will raise the sailors much faster. Yeah, and this is something with Per we've seen this summer with all these guys coming on the standard to train with us. It was magnificent to see all this team spirit and everybody working together and making a lot of effort and a lot of hours on the water and then being super tired because of the gym as well. Team, I think, is a big word and it's very easy to make with a laser and will raise the club sailors up a lot. Yeah. And it's up to us coaches to do that and how to do that. Yeah. Well, I started this because it's a season plan. I want to be the best at some of the events. I'm preparing my sailors to get in the best shape, and I'm really preparing that in advance. But once the season finished, we need to start to think, no? Why it was well, why it wasn't not, why, what can we do better, what are we missing, and this is, I think, another really important part of our job. So from now for a week, I'm just thinking on what to do next to make my sailors better, and I have different systems. Well, before I start, I think there is a question. Yeah, I can have a lot of typical aerobical sessions that they do, but it depends a lot on to who is it. I think that for the kids, for the youngsters, the most important is to be out and to play them together. That's my feeling.
Anton, I just also add that it will probably on the 7th of December, Frank and Anette Melsom Myhre, Frank Kirkeland and Anette Melsom Myhre, will give a post-educational seminar, etterutdanningsseminar, on physical training for youth and senior sailors.
That's a good one, yeah. And I've seen Frank here, and it's another one that can talk together with Matthias, for example, about all the things that we are saying. Yeah, so there is a lot of experience on this class. I'm really happy on that. So yeah, physical aerobic. Will depend a lot of which sailors they are and what the need and how they start. I think is important. Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, but to start with some small tests first, to know how they are, and then to build from there all the aerobic, anaerobic, explosive, core, and everything. Yeah. The problem, if I just share one of Herman's aerobic programs, is that we may kill one of these youngsters, no? Starting too fast. For sure, he will kill me. So need to be careful on to who do I prepare the physical part, and what is the goal, and how long time do I have to work on it? Yeah? Because that's the other part of the time frame to improve my sailors.
But I think also it's important for the clubs to do some winter training, because we can see in different clubs, if they are training in the winter in the group, people stay on sailing. But if they have no training together, it's easy for people to drop out of sailing. And also it's more fun to do something together. Like in my club, we play this bandy every Thursday, and it's really fun, and they keep the team together, and also it's part of the thing here. So just to have a good training, have a good time together, and just push each other. And it's like if some people don't show up, they need to have a good reason for it. So because sometimes people don't want to come because the grandmother had birthday, but some people put actually more time into it, and it's fair for everybody. Like when people come for training, everybody show up.
Yeah. So after we did all this job preparing the calendar, which is it's quite demanding, thinking on our sailors' needs and the goals and what we want to improve. Then we suffer all the season, and we enjoy the work during the season, because both things we do, we suffer it and we enjoy it a lot. But then at the end is okay, and now we did that, we work on this, I'm happy with the season, and then we need to ask ourselves, and we need to ask the sailors as well, because my point of view is that the sailors' feedback is the most important part, because they know what they did and they know what they really need. But we need to add a lot to their thinking, because their thinking is sometimes too close. They are thinking about only themselves and what they believe is best for them, but we are our sailors' eyes from outside the boat, and we can see a lot of things that they don't feel and they don't see. So now sharing again a little bit different So we have this system with a lot of different points, that I use myself to test, starting with the boat handling and tags, jives, whatever you want to put, boat speed, if the equipment was good, race and race strategy, in case this is also from the race, tactics and strategy, race tactics, starting or racing is up here, starting, meteorological and tide awareness, rules. And then this here is the gold medalist profile summary, to see if it's better or not than our sailors. And then the physical, mental preparation, daily training, lifestyle, parental support team if needed, competition plan, regulations, coachability, communication with the coach, which I think this is a very important point. So I try to make my sailors this, that they need to write this, or I do with them or I do myself and then I compare with them. Yeah. Some sailors at the Olympic level, they don't like it at all. Some sailors, they need it. Some sailors, they prefer just to talk. So at this level where I am coaching now, I am really open and discussing the things with them. At the club level, when I was in the club or the youth level, I forced them to follow a system for them to see that all this is needed, that they need to think and reflect. And this one that I'm showing to you is pretty simple for them to fill it up and for myself to fill it up. Then there is another one. This is somebody here will know this one. Yeah, which is with this circle, which is very visual, and you can see the areas that are better, or the areas that you believe you are, and the areas that you think you need to fill up. So it's with different pointings. It's a similar system than the one that I show here, with the points and so on, but in a completely different way of expressing it, showing it, and then with a result of different numbers. Yeah. At the end, to me, the important part, especially for these youngsters, is that you, as a coaches, you need to have your own plan on how to prepare the season. You follow your sailors, you know what you need, and then you can reflect after every event or after every season. Myself, I'm doing it after every event, and with my sailors at this level, what I do is just having a talk, and this is more than enough, our talks. And then I get some notes and I move forward, and then I do a big one at the end of the season for myself and for my sailors. And then before we start the training on the water, we do a meeting of what we want, what are the needs, and what we need to move forward with that. With the youngsters, I believe that you guys, you know your team, you are the ones that need to be well prepared, organized, and following the system that you believe is the best for you and for them. But they need to realize that there is a system behind, that you are doing an effort, that you are doing this job, and that you are the ones that are really taking care of their development and their performance, and that you know all the different aspects, and that you have control after it. Yeah. Today, there are many different systems, online systems that people can use, and they are very, very simple and easy to follow. From calendars to like this circle, there are programs that they show this. So yeah, up to you guys what you want to, how you want to make your sailors better, but make some structure and think a little bit about what they need and how you can help them to improve on that. Yeah, I was last picture that I show is this one, that this is a few more roundings from the last Europeans, and what I'm doing is that to understand where we are losing or winning more, I'm I have my notes with race one, outer loop, because then I know that the first mark is a reach. And I have Herman, Carle, Philippe, and GB. So 4 sailors usually, because it's difficult to count more with a big fleet. And I'm doing the things in a leg. So then I can analyze with the wind that we had, where if we are losing or winning ourselves, and also if the others are faster or not on this, and then I can just try to understand why the others are better on this, or make understand my sailors as well that they are fast on the downwinds or fast on the upwinds, because sometimes they lose perspective, and with these little notes that they have, it's very simple for me to show them, no, you won so many votes or you lose so many votes on this leg, on the other leg. And this to me is a part of the structure that you need to have to become a organized coach and to help your sailors. So that was only an example of one single thing that we use, or that I use as a tool as well. No question? Good. Thank you. Well, once say that, no, I'm going from the, let's say, the big picture, from the boat, the big picture, and then what's important to make this boat fast. We discuss about the physical part, and now we need to go to one that is strategics and tactics, no, and how to make our sailors better on the water. And this to me comes also from the plan that we have, and this to me comes from the big plan, year plan, to a weekly plan, from the trainings to the racing plan. Yeah. So are my sailors good enough at the strategical plan? Do we need to train this, or do we need to train much more boat handling? Do we need to go on racing, or do we need to use a lot of time on the just making them sailing better? And if I go back to the calendar, for us, usually the most important part of the year is now that we start the season. And we start the season with a lot of physical, so the guys are really tired, so they are not very or not as clear as they need to be on their mind. So tactically is something that we use less, but we work a lot on the boat handling, and I work a lot on during the days that they are really physically tired and with the shorter trainings on the water. I try to be much more on the boat handling side and go for the details on this with a little bit of a speed to break it. So the trainings to me, and during this period, are really the most important part, is that we can break the things to break also the tiredness on the brain. So we start with 2 hours training, for example, and I know that the first 15 minutes is a warm-up. That's something that I will reinforce as well. Please start all the trainings with a warm-up. The warm-ups are really important, sure, but are more important on the water. So use 10-15 minutes every day for the guys to warm up with different exercises. Then if we go to boat handling with a lot of marks, which is quite physical demanding as well, I try to cut it after 1 hour, and we do some speed to do some nice easy downwinds to go work on the technique on the downwind. So I try also to balance these things, knowing or thinking about the physical part of the sailors and the moment of the season that we are. Closer to the races, more stars, more racing, more marks with other boats, more we look for the other boats to train with. During the first part, with 2, 3, 4 boats is more than enough. Closer to Palma, which is usually the first event, we want to be with as many boats as possible, settling coaches regatta there. There is a question here, I think. Okay. Why do I say that? Yeah. Is because we really want to train a lot of racing. The guys, they love to train because they are really competitive on the racing course, and they like to sail because it's a competitive sport. But don't forget all the boat handling stuff that you need to do, all the work, because, and I will show it later with the videos, if we don't know how to start or how to make a good start, then for sure we will be in a bad position from the beginning, and then we will not be able to race a good race, to get a good result. So use a lot of time to practice the boat handling, to do a lot of exercises. And if, yeah, I think there are plenty in many books, but if you need some, please let me know and I can send some to you or through Ian's. Yeah, we can do something if you need specific exercises. Ian's, maybe you can organize this. Yeah,
no problem. That reminds me that we had a question just a while ago whether this will be available for everybody after the seminar. So I answered that everything will be available, and we will also video the conference, so you're aware of that. There's a question: will we have some intervals during the seminar?
I think I'm making them too tired. Yeah. The idea was to stop at 7, no? So we can stop a little bit earlier if they want, and because at 7 Herman and Line will join, and we can start from a more specific part of it. Yeah. With this, there was the talking opening now with the strategical and tactical plan is because we are all keen to race and to compete, and we have a lot of different possibilities to understand and to improve our strategical plan. But please work a lot on the boat handling, work a lot on how to make the sailors more confident on the boat before they start the race. Because if they feel comfortable with the tacks, with the maneuvers, with the hiking position, with their acceleration at the start, they will race much better. And yeah, if we go now to race preparation, yeah, I think because from the big picture to the smaller one, now we are close to the race. We want to start a race, and we have so many different aspects and needs. We have a question here. I don't know, Jens. What is variation versus repetition? Yeah, that's a really good one, Christian. And this is a very difficult one. I have from the different sailors that I have to say that 50 of them at the Olympic level, 50% of them, they believe that they improve when they repeat. They believe that without the repetition, they will never be better, that they need to practice and practice to feel safe and more comfortable on the boat. My other 50% of the sailors at the Olympic level, they said that they don't need to do that because that's boring and it's not needed, that we needed to have variation, and variation is what makes them better. So I have to say that from my experience with young sailors, and I think that we need to repeat the movements on the boat with different exercises to make it as the range of the exercises as open as possible, but with the goal that we want to. For example, if we want the guys to have a better acceleration at the starting line, and we just put them on a mark alone, starting and trying to hill the boat, pulling the main sheet, flatten the boat, and go. After a couple of minutes, 90% of them will be bored and they will not improve. The other 10%, they will need that, but 90%, I believe, no. So then we coaches, we can add a lot of different exercises that will end up with the sailors heeling the boat better, pulling the main sheet better, and getting the boat faster after this hill. And it can be just examples from the rabbit starts to starting without marks, a group that they need to raise up from just sailing without a rudder or sailing with a rudder attached to the boat, trying to do, or we can mount a circuit like this, the different, like a slalom with the boards. And if you have the slalom on the boards, you can put 6, 7, 8 marks, and they need to do a lot of these jives and tags, and then you can stop them and start them again, that they need to do the hill to accelerate the boat better. So to me, repetition, but especially with the young kids, with as many different exercises as possible. Make them entertained. If they are entertained, they will train better and they will train longer. I hope I did answer your question. Yeah. And then back to the competition. This is something that we work a lot, and I think is especially when you have a big group of kids. We can have so many different possibilities in a race when we're going on the water, that the most important is to put this one as small as possible. And I think it worked well with me to ask what's important today. Making this question to the sailor, that they need to think on what's important and answer with 3 points, no more than that. I think 3 points is, and every day will be different 3 points. Depends on the wind, depends on what they need, depends if they're improving, it depends if it's the most important event of the year, depends if it's just a training regatta, if it's something that they are not, if they are using the best material, if they feel well, if they don't feel. What's important, and from their 3 points, then you as a coach can know what they are thinking and then add what you think. It will be also important. Yeah. Because they can be in a day that they are not thinking, or they can think, I want to go right. But then it's important to go right, or why you want to go right, or what's the meaning of do you want to go right. So if they answer you with 3 questions or 3 answers and you have 10 boats, it's I think it's doable. If we start to talk about too many things, they get lost in a space and they get lost with the wind. So I will suggest as a coach to get the sailors into your boat, and then they need to answer this question: what's important? I think it will help a lot your sailors to improve and to think about what's coming next. And for us coaches, it gives us a lot of time, because the sailors can come, get food or get ready for the race, and it's just 3 important points, guys. Go for it. And then you add the 4th one. Okay, you start closer to the pin, or don't get into the mess in the pin, or win the pin. Whatever you want to, you need to add to their common. And this one, the one that you will tell them, is the one that will get into the brains and they will reinforce. So this one needs to be something really, really important that you've been thinking really well. So short sentences, I think it's the way to prepare a race, and the way to help your sailors to be focused on the race. That's a key. Yeah. And of course, before that, we've been training, we've been talking, we know the wind, we know the weather forecast, we know the area, we know what we want to do. We try to test upwind and downwind. We had all this process that is a process that you need to work with your team to make it happen. For us, it's a key factor before we go on the water to know, okay, I'm towing, no, I'm towing, we're going sailing, we're going practice, I'll drop you at the top mark, I drop you at the starting line, you start on the upwind, you start on the downwind, depends on the day that we expect. We change this process, but we know the processes that we want to follow. And bigger the group is, better it will be, and more efficient your coaching will end up. So get the process with your team before, thinking on what's important for the day. Yeah. So you, from land, you start to talk about what's important, and then they come to the ribbon before the start, and this what's important becomes just 3 points. Yeah. Once we are inside, what's important for us on the race, it's we discuss a lot what are the wind conditions, and okay, my questions to them usually is after the 3 points is okay, what do you want to start, and which will be your ideal position after 1 or 2 tacks. So I want to start in the pin and I want to cross the fleet as soon as possible. Good. And then which is the plan B if you cannot be the first one on the pin? How are you gonna try to be free and get in the similar point as you wanted to be if you won the pin? Because for me, a plan B is something needed because we don't know how we will start. We will all try to be the best ones at the starting line, but we don't really know. So a plan B is something that is super important for the sailors to start to have in their minds, yeah, and try to react if something gets wrong. So yeah, if I can make it again, last one. I'm going fast because it's nearly 7. I'm talking too much, yeah. But I had also this. This is this drawing here. Don't read the. It's the first part from the start to the point number 3. I think this is very, very key. It's something we need to have before the start, ready to go, and especially in the big fleets, is how can I end up in this place, this point that I want to after the start, how many tacks, and then there is a part in the middle that you see there is no gain zone. And then it's this is a longer area. So physically, mentally, tactically, we are super focused on the first third of the upwind. Then the second third of the upwind is just to go to the side that I want to go, and I can relax a little bit. If I go at 100% for the first 2 minutes after the start, at 100%, then in this moment here, I can go to my 90-95%, and then I can get into the top mark a little bit fresher and go for one of the most important parts of one of the most important parts to me, that is approach and exit to the top mark. And in the last 2 minutes, 3 minutes before the mark, our brain needs to be also fresh. So if we are pushing too much before, we will not be fresh there. What does it mean not to push too much? Yeah, because I cannot relax and be 25 at the top mark, then it's a no gain. But I need to know which are my forces, which is my energy, because I need to have an extra push to get into the top mark as good as possible. We can discuss days and days about different positionings at top mark, but I have to say that talk to your guys what is the entrance at the top mark and which exit they want to, how they want to exit the top mark. And it will depend every single situation about or depending on where they are, which wind shift, which waves. But this is something that sailing wise is not only start, but it's really important. It's not only hiking, but it's really important. The biggest winds during the racing are on the first meters after the top mark and at the gate. The biggest losses are at the top mark and at the gate. Speed-wise, we at our level is 1-2 boat lengths difference of speed, a couple of more because of the shift, but the biggest gains and biggest losses are at the bottom and the top mark rounding. So this is something that we work a lot, and we do a lot of them, and we position the marks during the trainings wrong and longer and shorter, so different top mark position for the sailors to have different top mark roundings and top mark exits. Yeah. And then, of course, technique downwind. Yeah. The technique downwind is something that we will discuss with Herman and Line in the next after the break. But it's the speed-wise, the biggest difference on the speed are on the downwinds. This is what now we are working more on downwind than upwind. Or we are doing 45 to 50 minutes of speed upwind, different speed test upwind, and then we do really long downwinds. If we need to come back at towing, we come back towing. Yeah, but the long downwinds is something that it helps a lot. How to increase the speed on the downwind is a discussion we have with Herman when he comes now at from 7. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, one more thing, yeah, that is been very useful for us on how to improve our strategical and tactical things. And Matthias been suffering this from me. Is we had a GPS and tracking, and we did a lot of trackings during the trainings, and we did a lot of looking at the trackings as a team, discussing the tactical things, but also for the sailors, the tracks were very useful to see the different angles, especially on the downwinds, and to understand why the others were faster than me or slower than me, because they can visualize what they did on the water. So it's not only to see the tracking and the numbers and see who was faster or slower, but also they visualize the training that we did on the water. And this, we cannot do it with a video. It's something that they have to do themselves. So the tracking is a tool that helps us a lot, together with the wind system and so on, and that we use and we continue using. And now some races we have these trackings. So I suggest to all coaches to work with that. Nowadays, with all these watches that these sailors have, you have a good enough GPS to see what they are doing. Not to compare speed. The speed is useless with these watches or devices. It needs to be very precise, but they are very useful to mount a tracking that you can do it pretty simple on the Google Earth, for example, and you can do the races and then review the trainings with them or the races with them if needed. Yeah. Well, it's 7. I have some other things, yeah, but we can start with. We can do a break if you want, and we start later with Line and Herman. Jens, there is a question here on the chat that I don't know.
It says it's a question for the end of the day.
Okay.
It's the transition from 4.7 to radial. What's the recommendation, and when should you do the transition, and when should you definitely not? And Viggo, who's asking the question, is thinking about youth who are eager to change from 4.7 to radial sail.
Yeah, we can use some minutes at the end, Jens, to answer questions like this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's no problem. I'll try to make a note on all questions that we are not raising during the discussion, and we'll take them also in the end. Yeah. Shall we continue? I think both Herman and we can see that Line is here. And I think that Herman is also now with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now My idea now was to open it more to the discussions and use some videos. I can do it very theoretically, and I can put a lot of examples, and I can continue talking. But I would like to use Line, Herman, and Per to get some more discussion into what's important and what is not important. Yeah? Then I can share my thoughts at the end with anybody that wants to extend them more. But looking at the time that we have, I would like to start with, to me, the moment that we can win most during the races, that is in the downwind. And I have some videos from the standard, quite recent, that I think we can see different activities and different ways to position the boat on the waves and what's important for every sailor. So I have many more, but I will start with 3 videos, and I would like maybe Herman and Line to discuss the differences, or if they are not as active as I would like, I will start to make questions. Yeah, but it's time to hear from them, because one thing that I realize, and I think that it's also important, is that we coaches, we know a lot from outside. We know a lot about how to program, practice, make the sailors better. But only sailors knows what they really work at on the boat and how they put the feet on, or the leg, or the hand, or how they trim the main sheet. Yeah. And a clear example was a couple of not even months, but 6 weeks ago, where Herman came to me and said, "Wow, now I remember that it was pulling the main sheet like this back and not like this down, and I feel the boat completely different." And for me, it was nearly impossible to see that on a training with more boats. So that what I want to end up is that we need to listen to the sailors, because they know what they do, and they know the details sometimes better than we do. Yeah. So Herman, we start with 3 videos on the downwind. You may remember some of them. Yeah. This is from Vassar. And you see, I know, Herman, what do you need on the boat to make it fast on the downwind? If you can comment this.
Yeah, it of course depends a lot on the pressure. Like here, it's just on the edge if you get on the waves or not, and then it's very important to not, at least for me, to not end up with too big angles, because it's very hard to accelerate the boat a lot while doing a big angle. You need to be a lot faster to be able to, say, gain on a big angle. But then on the other hand, just being static just towards the bottom mark is not either the best way. So I would say, like you see, both me and Carlo, the Finnish guy just behind me, is probably the fastest downwinder in the fleet at the moment. You can see, like, we're rocking the boat quite a lot, but then we're trying to always, I can say, end the rock and get on a wave in the end of the rock, and try to, add steering with the rocks, so we don't get outside of the rule 42. This is and then also important point is to always kind of try to end the pump as much in the wave direction as possible, so you don't get too much angle on the wave, because the more you are in wave direction when you end the pump and have pressure in the boat, the more the easier it is to get on the wave. But then of course it's you need to, like, the bigger angle you get, the more pressure you have in the sail, the more speed you can get, but then it's more difficult to get on the wave, so you need to find a middle ground there. So
Yeah, if I can say we have 2 different techniques on the laser class at this moment. Herman and Carlo, the Finnish guy, we can see here, they are the ones that they do the narrow angles, that they are less active with the steering on the fleet, because they want to go, as Herman said, on the direction of the wave. they want the wave to push them, and the wave is the one that push them towards the mark. And to know where the mark is super important for them, because they don't want to go too far and to make a bigger angle. But there are others on the fleet that our training partners as well, that they do completely different, and yeah, they are also fast. Like now we will see Philippe, the world champion. You can comment, Herman, that you know pretty well.
Yeah. And like you can see, he does a lot more main sheet work and a lot bigger angles. Of course, there's a little bit more pressure here as well, but he would usually do bigger angles even when it's as light as the other one. The good thing here is that he always keeps the boat going. He will, every time he feels like he's losing a wave or starting to lose the speed of the boat, he will go on a sharper angle and try to keep the speed in the boat as much as possible. The problem for him is if he does a big angle and still lose the speed because he can't within the time before he starts losing, or that he can't get on another wave, then he has a problem. So but as long as he manages to be fast and then fall into another wave before he loses the speed, his top speed can be very, very high with his technique. But as you see, it's a lot of activity and really a lot of movement.
He also moves a lot back and forth, doesn't he?
Yeah.
By the looks of it.
It's a lot of movements everywhere, a lot back and forth, a lot of movements with or a lot of playing with the main sheet, and also a lot of steering. And you can see he's moving a lot more. And if Carl and I, with the small angles, would have moved the boat as much as him, we would definitely have been gotten a lot of yellow flags because we're not steering enough. While he's moving a lot and it looks a little bit crazy, but then the jury will allow it because he's also changing the angle a lot. So they allow a big heel of the boat as long as and a big rock as long as you do a big as long as it is together with a big change of angle of the boat.
And this is a key factor because the rule 42 is a very subjective rule that we have to deal with. Every race that we go, and we all did suffer that, different coaches with different visions and different ways to understand the game. So we need to narrow it down. I think it's important that every time that you do a move on the boat, you change the angle and that you pass the wing down. And then you can rock and move the boat and go to the other side if that's the technique that you want to use. But what we realize on the standard is that you don't need to move so much the boat, that this extra activity is not sending you forward all the time, that the technique that Herman is using and Carl is using, having narrow angles, less movements on the boat, just waiting or feeling that the wave is pushing you down, and knowing when to hold the boat with this wave is most of the times the fastest way to the bottom mark. So the extra activity, this is a discussion we can have. We had a lot with Herman, Carle, and Jesper, or Philippe in this case. You see the German guy, he thinks the opposite completely, and he won the world. So yeah. The thing is, what do we want for our sailors, you know? Which technique do we need to use to make them fast? And depends on the wind, depends on the sailor, but I will say that we can make the boat faster with less movements, and this will be much better for the Rule 42 as well. Line, what do you think about the radial compared to that?
I think the same applies. for the radial, but I do think the level of movement is probably taken down a little bit because everyone is a little bit more careful than they are in the standard mostly. So with the judges as well, you don't want to be sticking out too much from the fleet. But yeah, I think it's the same. We also have the two different types of downwind. I also do the more narrow angle downwind and less movements. And then you have sailors like Anne-Marie Rindam, who has very big angles and a lot of movement. So yeah.
And one tip to the coaches, when you feel that your boat is slowing down, because coaches, usually the sailors come and say, wow, I'm not fast, I'm not going fast, my boat is going slow. What will be the first thing that you will think about to make your boat fast?
Me?
Yeah, please.
I think I'll firstly start going more angles. It's the easiest way to get more pressure in the sail and start feeling the sail more. Of course, look back, look for pressure. And if I'm in the pressure, then go for a little bit of a bigger angle, try and press down into a pump on negative or get a little leeward pump on positive. So at least start to feel the pressure a little bit again, and then try to narrow it down again. So if I feel like I'm stopping, I'll try to put up a bigger angle for just a little bit. And then once I feel the speed again, or once I feel fast enough again, I'll narrow it down so that the VMG is better again.
And for you, Herman?
I would often, if I feel my boat is not going, it's often because I'm, stressing, or that I'm not giving it enough time to build the turns and to let the wave actually do the work. So for me, I often have to, don't stress the turn and really feel like, okay, now I'm building up a turn. I'm waiting for the wave and let the wave, and then make sure that I'm not stressing my turn and trying to make the pump too early in the wave, because then I often have this feeling that I'm always sailing uphill, like that you're always sailing up the wave, and this is usually because I haven't waited until the wave is actually catching me properly before I make the pump.
And to me, both of your comments end up with the same. It's relax, no? Wait for the wave to come in case of Herman. Wait a little bit longer and the turns to make more pressure on the boat. So most of the times, well, as a coach, I think that it's because the stress that the sailors have inside the boat, that they are not able to feel the boat as good as they usually do, what it makes them slow. So it's nothing more technical than themselves relaxing, thinking, looking backwards for the next pressure or next wave. And for us coaches, I think it's important just to add if a little bit more tension on the main sheet or less tension on the main sheet, or the kicker is also really important. We found that in the 4.7 radial and now standard with this sail especially, that a little bit different, more tension or less tension on the kicker, it also helps the boat for the sailor to feel the boat completely different. Yeah. But first thing is, guys, relax, look backwards, wait for the wave to come, wait for the pressure. It will come because the waves are like this or like that. So if we coaches, we explain a bit how the waves are related to the wind, the sailors will understand easier what they need to do. And this is a discussion that sometimes we have also. How are the waves? Where are the waves coming from? Where are they going? Are they pushing you left or right? Are they good with the shift, with the left shift, with the pressure on the right? What's the best way to catch the waves? Okay, if this is the best way, will it send it too far from the mark? How will you come back to the mark? No, I'm going straight to the mark. This is perfect. So all these little situations also. Yeah. But first of all, sailors usually compete with a lot of pressure, and they put this pressure on the downwind, and extra work on the downwind to slow down the boat. Yeah. I have some questions. Yeah, go ahead, Lina.
I have a comment about the pumps on the downwind. So I've been coaching quite a few different youth sailors in Norway this year, and a lot of them has never actually been properly taught or does not actually know how to do a negative pump. They don't know how a negative pump works. So I think it's really important that they get those basics in first as well, to really learn, the transitions from negative to positive, the negative pump, so that you get the heel with a big angle and then push it slowly down towards more straight downwind, and then heel up again with a big angle towards negative and then push it down. Because I found a lot of them hadn't actually heard about this theory part of it, and then it'll be really hard to know what to do on the waves.
Can you explain to us again, Line, what do you think is important on these transitions, and what is a positive or a negative pump?
So a positive pump is when you have or a positive sailing in general is when you have the wind more so as if you're reaching, and then you want the pump is when you get leeward heeling, so with your boom to the water and then press it down to flat, and every time you get a speed, every time you get more speed, you want to push it down towards the mark to get that more speed towards the mark. And negative pump is when you're opposite, so the wind is more from the leach of the sail, and if you heel it, come up more towards an even stronger angle with the wind in from the leach. So, yeah, and then press it slowly down with control, and then as well go further towards the mark.
I believe you are looking at so this is a negative pump. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're going to a positive transition, going to the negative again, slowly down, no? And then he end up with a positive hard one, yeah?
Mm.
This is quite extreme, but I think we can see. And then the move forward to catch the next wave is also really important with another positive pump, yeah?
Mm.
That this will be theoretically illegal, yeah? Because you need to move completely negative to make the second positive pump.
I think a really good exercise to learn this is just to simply train from going negative to positive. So you train going negative, do a negative pump, and slowly transition over to positive, and then do the positive pump, slowly going over to negative again, so that they'll learn the way of transitioning with the turn and the way of pumping with the turn. So it's kind of implemented into your body when you do it.
Because at the end what you need is just to feel the boat on the wave, because you want to look backwards and to look at the other opponents, no? But you both cannot stop them.
Mm.
And does it come with a lot of repetitions?
Yes.
How do you feel? Yes, hours.
Yes. I mean, some sailors kind of feel the waves a lot more, and some sailors you will need to just literally learn them how to. You'll need to teach them, once you're in the bottom of that wave, you need to press the boat flat to get onto the surf. Yeah. Negative is negative. So
Line, sorry, if you want to explain in Norwegian, I would be happy with that, if it's easier.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do a little drawing. So this is my boat. Sorry, I'm just doing 3 drawings to show. Oh, damn it. This one's wrong. Whatever. Okay. So here is, can you see that? 3 boats.
Lift it a bit.
Lift it?
Yeah.
There's 3 boats, but there is the wind. So this boat is closer to a reaching course. It's going more this way. That will be positive. This boat is going more with the wind in from the leach, så, altså inn fra akterliket, så på den siden her, den går negativt. Det her platt, det var litt dårlig tegn da, men altså rett ut og ikke noe vinkel inn på fra siden av seilet. Var det... Så det her negativ når du har, det litt, altså du på en måte endrer, det blir som om masten blir akterlike, og akterlike blir masten når du seiler negativ. Og positiv nærmere slør. Positivt nærmere slør, negativt fra slør. Det...
Det virker klart.
Ja. Og så et negativt pump da, vil bli, du går, hvis bommen og seilet står opp her, så går bommen ut her, så vil du da gå opp med akterlike hvor hånden min opp, og pumpe ned og komme ned mer ned mot platt.
I can put another video. There is a question maybe.
No, that's just a confirmation that they understood.
So now I can put a video of Kalle, who does less movements, but he also does some turns, and you can maybe comment. No, Herman, you know his sailing technique a little bit. And let me see.
Yeah, also here, as you can see, Kalle often sits with his knee, or always sits with his knee down, which is also, it's some different techniques with how you would want to sit. You see his back knee is down, while I sit with my back knee up. That's just it depends what you're comfortable with. Then apart from that, what you see Kalle is very good at is to, like, he makes a quick pump and then he manages to get on the wave straight away, and he's changing the angle compared to the wave. Like, if you watch his bow, you see he's almost always seeking for the lowest point in the wave. Like, you see he's always kind of trying to find the best way to stay on the wave, or if he has a lot of speed, to connect to the next wave. And if he loses the speed, you see him always trying to find where he can get the most or quickest get on the next wave.
Because here you have you as well. You can see both knees up.
Yeah, like you can see, I'm both knees up. Here is a little bit more pressure, though, so I'm pulling from the ratchet block. This one is also, when it gets more windy, we start pulling from the ratchet block. The previous ones were been from the boom. And here you can see, when it's more pressure like this, you can kind of build up the turns a little bit longer. And I can also position myself a little bit further back on the waves. When it's light and you can barely get on the waves, you kind of want to be as far forward on the wave as possible, because it's very difficult to get on it, and you just want to make sure that you're on it as best possible. While here you can start to get a little bit further back on the wave, just to then you can get even more speed out of the wave, and then a better chance of connecting it to get on the next wave, or to find possibilities afterwards.
So to me, we need to be helping the sailors to get active on the boat, but we need to be super careful with Rule 42. And we need the sailors to understand where they are on the pressure, on the momentum of the wave, and to move up and down, or forward and backwards, or to make a bigger turn, or a little bit longer or not. Because one of the important things is that the wind is not always the same. You need to adapt to it. So what these two, Line and Herman, are really good at is just to listening and reading the wind from the back. And this is, so our goal is to make the sailors as fast as possible looking backwards, not looking at the boat. Go ahead, Liam.
There is one question just now that gets just to your comment about the Rule 42. The question is, what about flat water? How do you do it then?
I didn't put any of these videos. I left it for you, Jens, for the Rule 42. Yeah. Flat water, a little bit of wind. The reality is that you cannot move. There are no waves to push. Yeah. So you cannot turn. The turns need to be longer, and the turns needs to be because of a shift, a tactical, not moving because of the waves, because there are no waves. The reality is that the guys and the girls, they change the angles anyway because they make it a longer negative and longer positive. So they are not steering as much as you can see now on these videos. We have a good video that I will forward to you, Jens, for the Rule 42 with a flat water and seeing the movements that the jury was allowing us, the movements that he didn't allow us to do. Yeah, but it's a tricky one, no? Herman, how do you do that on the flat water? Can you go straight down then?
The flat water, we will, if it's flat water and light winds, we would almost just stay by the lee because you feel the pressure easier by the lee than on the positive, and also it's a little bit safer for the Rule 42. They usually allow more, more small pumps there than on the positive, and then we would stay by the lee and then try to do small pumps and try to always fall down with the pressure. So you would seek the pressure going more and more by the lee, so negative, more and more negative, and then once you feel that you have the pressure, you start coming in on the main sheet, or you start just pushing down and starting to come on pointing more towards the mark and trying to just use the pressure, use the speed you gain, and in this way you make kind of some S turns that you build the pressure and then use the pressure to get down, and you make S turns like this, and then when it's this light, it becomes more a tactical. More of a tactical race than usual downwinds when it's a little more pressure. So it's more about it's more similar to the upwind, I would say, in the way you kind of need to take the shifts. You need to try to position yourself compared to the other boats so that you can always have clear air and be on the angle that takes you the most down towards the bottom mark.
And I'd also maybe say that you don't want to change from negative to positive as much as you do in more wind, because you can imagine that the wind has to go through the sail all the time, and then if you keep changing the direction of where the wind comes into the sail, if it's very light winds, that will take a very long time for the wind to manage to push the other wind away from the sail in the middle. Well, if you try and stay longer, you'll keep the flow in the sail a lot longer from one angle. And then once you change, you stay on the new angle for longer, because then the wind flow will keep on going the same way. And in such light winds, that change can be quite hard or quite damaging to the speed.
Yeah, usually we would jibe instead of changing to positive. So just stay by the lee of both tacks instead of switching to positive. Sometimes you switch to positive, but it's a very slow movement, like Line said, and it's easy to lose the pressure doing it.
Was it clear enough in English, or is it important for you to listen to that in Norwegian if anybody needs more? But if not, I would like just to add two things. One that Herman said now, that it's the juries, they look, it's easier for the juries to judge the Rule 42 when it's the boats are on positive than on negative. So the sailors, and this is a good tip for the sailors, get on negative, it will be more difficult for the judges to raise a yellow flag then. Can you take it in Norwegian as a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Herman, with this light wind explanation, or then Line can go with her wind angle explanation as well, yeah?
Jeg tror vi tar det veldig kjapt.
Ja, altså hovedpunktet er at vi der ligger særlig mer negativt. Ikke bytter, sånn som du så på alle de andre videoene, så bytter vi positivt til negativt. Og det gjør vi mye mindre når det blåser så lite, så vi blir mer liggende bare negativen. Og så presser vi, når vi bygger trykket, så presser vi båten ned og prøver å komme oss mer mot merket, men uten å skifte over til positivt, men bare går mer ned mot en platt lens. Altså som Line nevnte, så hvis vi bytter over til positiven, så må du skifte vindretningen eller hvilken vei vinden går gjennom seilet. Og når det er så lett vind, så tar det skiftet en lang tid. Så derfor prøver vi å unngå det så mye som mulig, og da tar vi heller og gibber og skifter vinkel med å gibbe.
Det er bra. Da tror jeg vi kan gå videre. Kjempefint.
And one way to learn what the boat needs is to do the downwinds with attached rudder or without the rudder even. If the sailors are able to do the downwinds in different conditions and do the turns with the different conditions without the rudder, this will be a big advantage for them because we barely use the rudder or it's just a brake that you have on the boat. Yeah? So I think this will be a good exercise to do with your sailors. Just attach the rudder, going downwind and see what happens. Yeah, and then you can maybe take it off and see what happens. Yeah. That's a tip from Christian, no? That he did when he came to coach us and to be our expert. That was one of the things that he was pushing us to work on, also at our level. So if you start earlier, this will help a lot the sailors to feel the boat and go fast downwind.
I also think Per had a very good explanation for me when I started sailing the Laser on how to do the negative pump because I didn't really understand. He told me to almost capsize, so feel like I'm really almost capsizing when going negative, and then save it, because then you really feel the speed.
Can you explain that in Norwegian, Per?
Yeah, I can. Det som viktig, det som vanskelig å seile lens i litevind, det å kjenne trykket, og da vet jeg at særlig negativ skjæring lettere å kjenne trykket i båten. Ja, å vippe båten over sånn, det bra ting, og som jeg sier også viktig da, kanskje ta kjølen ned, for da går litt saktere, for å vinne, eller for å få mindre tension av dommerne, for da tar det litt lengre tid. Ja, nei, det har ikke så mye å egentlig si på den der, egentlig. Line tok en bra der. Så, men det eneste jeg vil kommentere med det som vanskelig på lensen, det å vite om vind dreier. Det vanskelig. Hvis du greier å finne ut når vind dreier på lensen, da har du kommet langt. For det som egentlig avgjør, jeg ser de beste seilerne, de greier på en eller annen måte å få med seg når vind dreier. For det som viktig på kryssen, så møter du trykkene, og seiler gjennom trykkene, så har selvfølgelig litt mye å si der også, men på lensen så følger trykk nedover. Så hvis du greier det, derfor de vinklene så viktig, derfor er det greit å kanskje gjøre litt negativt, for da kan du kanskje treffe nye trykk. Yes.
Anton, Per is making a very good comment on the difficulty in feeling the shifts when you're downwind.
Yeah, that's.
Just to explain, like for me, the most difficult thing is to know when the wind shifting in real light condition. I see the best guys; they can suddenly find out how it turns, but I think there is a lot of meter to achieve if you have this knowledge. And yeah, do you have an explanation how you think how you're going to do it?
Depends on the level. At the level that Herman and Line are, my explanation is pretty simple, and it's that are you feeling your boat as fast as before? Is something changing? Are you changing something in your boat? No, you're working the same, no? And now you feel that your boat is slow. There is something outside your boat that is changing. Is that the wind decrease? Is that there's a wind shift? Is that what is happening outside? Because you know, you have enough hours on the boat, you know how to sail this boat. So if suddenly you're going fast and suddenly the boat speed is decreasing, is something is changing outside. Be aware and adapt.
But anyway, it's like it's a really important part is the mark, direction to the mark. You can just go bearing off 10 degrees and go faster, but you know, if you talk about how to feel the shift on the downwind, so like I said, people like you said, like you have almost the same speed, and then you need to always see the angle to the mark. But that's a difficult thing, but if you can make this one, it's gonna.
It's a very difficult one. And what we talk is from the approach to the top mark. What you know, the wind shifts on the upwind. You need to be aware of what the wind is coming from. You need to be aware of what the downwind mark is. So when before you run the top mark, you have a plan of what you want to do on the downwind. And then, if you are able to manage these 2 or 3 shifts on the downwind that you can expect because it happened on the upwind, then you can have your tactical decisions on your mind. And what you can never lose is, as Per said, is where the bottom mark is, and how I want to use these 2 or 3 shifts, and how to see them. To me, is starting thinking on the upwind, on how the wind is doing. So all the knowledge that you have from before, it will help you on the downwind to understand. I came in with a right shift. Most probably the next one will be left because the wind was coming and going. Is the pressures coming from the side? So you need to understand what happened on the field on the upwind to play this on the downwind, and then little by little you will understand a bit better the shifts, but not always, because now we come from an event that it was really difficult to understand the shifts as well, and after a long preparation. So I think it's more simple and theory.
But this is a real difficult sailing. I think the most for the sailors who are looking at now is like to plan a downwind before the upwind mark, and also plan the upwind before the downwind mark. If you do that, you're becoming a long way, because you know, coming up the upwind mark, you think you're by yourself. Note that like there maybe 10 or 20 or 30 people in the same time of the mark. But if you can manage to plan downwind, you're gonna win a lot actually. Yep. Just analyze where the wind come from, where is the best side, the current and stuff like this. I think that's the most important. It's not so difficult to think because you have quite knowledge when you go upwind, what's the best side, and you know, why do I lose or why I win and stuff.
And from my experience with the young sailors, we coaches, we are the key for this. We need to open their eyes to new items, and we need to open their eyes to understand that they need to think in advance. And this is, I will say, one of the more important points that we can teach our sailors is that think in advance.
Because I see when I'm coaching and when I see a sailor have a plan for downwind, it's warm my heart. I can see actually how the sailor think. That's, you know, make me really happy. But what I did with Anders when I was coaching Anders in the fin, I was like filming always on the top and almost the half downwind. Then we can actually look after sailing what was the plan here. Like sometimes he didn't have a plan, but sometimes the actual plan you can see just bear off or driving and stuff like this. And that's
this is something we also work with tracking, but it's a point that is an endless discussion, because with Herman, for example, we've been working on this, how to do the Tomo rounding, which it looks like just a technical boat handling thing, but it's more a position, a strategical plan, no, Herman?
And then it's always difficult, that one, and also even sometimes when you have planned and someone tacks on the inside of you on the top mark and he wants to go right and your plan was to go left, and then it can sometimes be like sometimes you need to change it as well. But I completely agree with Per that it's like when you see sailors that have made a good plan, you see them much quicker into the downwind as well. You see them with a much clearer view, and you usually make a good gains in the beginning of the downwind.
It is not like an optimist thing, because the seal optimist thing is like people run upwind mark, they take the center up, the spray down, take out the boat with a bailer, and then shit, I should be on this side because I was winning a lot on the right side, now on the opposite side, and you know, I was stuck with so many boats between. Because everybody knows the wind go around the fleet, because the wind is lazy like I am. always go the shortest way. So when the wind comes around the fleet, it's always go to the side and over, and always more wind in the side. And also there more room to play. So I think like when people plan it, they will win on it.
Yeah, and this reinforces what we said in the first part, no? Try to get a plan and what's important and a plan top mark. I think that we coaches need to be teaching them and being sometimes we need to be a little bit too much, but we need to talk about these things and remember the sailors that they need to think in advance. Yeah? And in this boat that is so physical and is so tiring, is very, very difficult to think in advance, especially when you are tired after a long upwind or after a long event. So, yeah. This doesn't answer the question on how to take the ships on the downwind, but I think it helps a lot on the improve on how to take the ships and to be aware of the ships on the downwind. No? Or Julina, you have any idea on how to take the ships on the downwind? What are you looking at? How do you position towards the mark?
The positioning is very hard. I agree a lot with Herman on that one. But I do think an easy like base rule is at least to take the last shift that you have in the upwind. So if you gain a lot on the right side and at the very end of on the upwind, you want to go left at the beginning of the downwind. And then if it's oscillating or if it's, you know, shifting from left to right, then you'll know that most probably you'll start going right, and then at some point, start going left, and then at some point it will change, so you will come back with a good angle as well. But I think it's an easy place to start, at least, to always go a lot for the last shift that you have had on the upwind.
But one thing we didn't maybe talk about is like I see the best sailors have less angle on the downwinds. The guys with not experienced, they have more angles to catch the waves, but the best guys have less angle. And Herman and Lynn, do you have any? When do you have big angles? When do you have short angles? Herman, start with you.
Yeah, I usually try to minimize the angles as soon as I have speed in the boat. So like until you have.
Do you focus on it? Do you try? You try hard on it. You think it's important?
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to, like Anton mentioned, that I think we almost always try to minimize the angles as much as possible. For me, I think it's mostly because it gives me a little bit more. My boat keeps my boat a little bit more in the wave direction, but and you end up not having to have so much speed in the boat all the time to still get towards the mark. But I think in general smaller angles is good, and sometimes you see. Usually, if you see the top guys doing big angles, it's because they're going for something, that they're going for a pressure, they're going for something that they see. They want to get free from something. It's that's usually the reason why they do a very big angle.
Yeah, one physical point on this as well is that flatter the boat is, and straight it goes, easier is to get the best speed on it. Yeah? So with the angles, the forces are not as good. It's maybe good to accelerate sometimes because you pull the main sheet and you have an extra force with the sail. But looking at the boat, just thinking on the boat, flat and straight is what is theoretically better. And that's what we try as well. You could see some of the downwinds there on the videos. Questions about the downwind? Do you want to add something else, Per, or on the downwind?
No, I'm fine actually. I think you went through everything, so it's just the training. More time you put into it, you better get. That's the worst thing.
Yeah, and I have to say that from the rip to see Herman or Carle going straight means that you see that the boats look slower, so it's very, very hard. So the guys that do the turns, they have a maximum, or the top speed is faster than the guys that go more straight, but the BMG is much better much better from the guys that are going straight. So from the code, you see the ones that are working a lot, going super fast, and then going super fast to the side, and suddenly they slow down a lot. And that, yeah, sometimes it's going to make me close to a heart attack, you know. But this is so. For us coaches, looks faster to see these guys super active and doing a lot of turns, but the reality is that it's not. Yeah. And it's less obvious for the rule 42, or easier also to escape from the rule 42.
But I think why you should train really hard on downwind, because it's fun. You go in downwind, you don't have to hike so hard, and there's the meters. People understand, like people think that upwind, there is the big difference. But I think in downwind, the best guys on downwind, they're just flying. So that's the reason why people try and train more in downwind, because it's quite fun, and also there's the meters.
One training that we do is just we start with a mass down, we tow, and then we do a long downwinds. I don't know. I don't remember the name of the island that we went from Moss, Herman, but we did 2 times this. From which island was that? I don't remember. Until then back to Moss. You remember, Herman?
Rabber.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, to change and to make it funnier, do a long towing, rig the boat if it's possible, to rig it somewhere. In the country you have many islands, there's a beautiful scenery. Do some activity upwind, and then do some downwinds, and break the downwinds, the long downwinds, with some upwinds, because if not, the legs become really tired, and it's good just to do also some hiking, yeah, as well. So we've been like more than 3 hours on the downwind, just training downwinds, and we try to do that quite often. Well, now finishing with downwind, the other part is upwind, of course. And here we have a big discussion on the last years. Is it better to have a boat a little bit hill or completely flat? Is it better to sail with the straight legs and the upper body as much out as possible, or is it better just to have the legs a little bit inverted, because you can then be more active? What do you think, Ine? What do you like to?
I like to have them a little bit bent, but I think it's really important that it's not actually bent, because this as well, I've seen a little bit this year when going around and coaching a few youth people, that their coaches has told them that they need to hike with their legs bent, and they hike like this. Their legs are like, their knees are gonna go to shits, you know? Probably most sailors, or most youth sailors at least, will be better off by learning to have their legs straight, but then just loosen up a tiny bit sometimes to put more power in. But I do think that it's better to have them a tiny bit bent, so that you can have the extra power to straighten them out, get the hips up, and get the extra power when you really need the extra power. So you can hike far out with the upper body all the time, but then have that extra gear where you can straighten out the legs and put in the hips a little bit extra too.
Because what I said on the first part to the coaches, that we are used to look at the sails and masts, but I believe that to start on the laser, you need to look at the two-strap and how tight or how loose it is. No, that this will help as much as with the best mast and sail, or maybe better, especially from the beginning. Yeah? So I was recommending them to use the new system with the cleat, because it's easier for you sailors to adjust it if needed. But I think that it's important to get the two-strap in the right position for the hiking that you want. No? Because you, Herman, you are changing a little bit your style, no, lately? What are you looking for?
Yeah.
What do you like most?
Yeah, like it's always been a little bit the Australians and New Zealanders have always gone very flat boats and super tight hiking straps in our fleet, while Europeans have been a little looser hiking straps and maybe a little more heel in general as well. I've tried to move my technique to a flatter boat, which I think it works well in most conditions. I think a little bit flatter boat and a little bit more static with the upper body out. I think it works well in most conditions, especially if it's choppy and like strong winds and choppy. I think this flat boat, upper body in a stable position far out, that works very well. You keep a good momentum on the boat all the time, and you have enough power to push through all the chop. Only place I would say where it can be better to be a little bit more dynamic with the upper body is if it's bigger waves. Then you can start. You can start to move your upper body more in and out, and you don't actually need. It's impossible to, or it's very difficult to find pressure in the boat that will keep your upper body out all the time. And then it can be better to try to move your upper body in and out, and then put the pressure or put out the upper body in the right moments where you can actually accelerate the boat. And then
go ahead.
Yeah, and if on the hiking straps, I agree with Line that you see a lot of very different hiking techniques on the youth, and of course the hiking technique is kind of a personal thing. Like even in our fleet, it changes a lot how people hike. Like for instance, Jesper Stolheim hikes with very bent legs, and he says the reason is because then he can use the back side of the legs more than the quadriceps, because then he kind of pushes his ass towards the side of the boat, which will then use the back side of the legs a little more, and he feels like he can relax more in his legs, and he can how can I say, hike for a longer time. But in general, quite straight legs is what it's going more and more towards. And yeah, for instance, the Australians are very straight legs. They're as straight as they can get, and then as I mentioned, super tight hiking straps, which then is a big load on the ankles. So I would recommend to not go straight to super tight hiking straps, but to try to feel for the sailors to try to feel where they want to be, where they feel comfortable, and then if you want to go towards tight hiking straps, then slowly tightening them a little bit more and a little bit more, so you let your legs your ankles get used to it and your legs get used to it.
Because then when you start to tie the two strap, you can hike a little bit less, so you are less active with the body. What happens when the wind increases or the gas? How you compensate this? How you make the boat stable? What is your first thinking? Is to work with your upper body as much as possible? Is the rudder? Is the main sheet? What helps you, Herman, to make the boat as stable as possible then?
I think in general, it's a combination of everything with the laser, sailing the laser, and that's what you often see is the main difference of the senior sailors to the junior sailors, is that the seniors manage to combine everything together. So like all the time you have different options. For instance, if you're sailing and you feel that you're losing the power in the boat, you can move your upper body in. You can steer a little bit lower, like just steering a few degrees lower will give you the pressure, and maybe you can tighten the main sheet if you're a little bit out. And it will be the same on the opposite way. If you feel a little bit overpowered, sometimes you can pinch out a little bit, sometimes you can release the main sheet, and sometimes you can detrim the boat. Usually if I starting out, I would start detrimming a little bit the boat, so starting to pull a little more Cunningham, a little bit more kicker if I feel I have too much power in the boat, because releasing the main sheet is very, like you don't actually take out any power with releasing the main sheet before you have any kicker on, and pinching up, it can work at moments when, for instance, if it's a period with flat water, but in general, when you start pinching out the power, if you start hitting some waves, you don't have enough power in the boat, or you don't have you don't have enough power in the boat to manage to push through the waves, and the waves stop you too much, or enough speed in the boat.
I think that was an important one. I don't know if everybody follow it, or it's better to try to summarize it in Norwegian. But what I will suggest to the coaches is to open the range of the tension on the main sheet, the movements with the upper body, the angle with movement rudders, the bow angle. So to say to your sailors, now we're going to be for 2 minutes in a low mode. Now we're going to be with an extra kicker that we know is not is useless, but I want you to feel what happens if the pressure increases. Now we want to sail with a deeper sail that we know is not the best one, but I want to know what happened in your legs. Now we are going to sail 1 minute with a really tight two-strap and just the upper body out. Now we want to try to mix the main sheet and the upper body out and be as quiet with the rudder. Now I want you only to work with the main sheet and the rudder, but not with the upper body, so that, as we said with the rudder on the downwind, that they can learn what happens on the boat and they can feel the boat better, and they can start to understand what will be the boat reaction if they do this or they do that. Yeah, because.
But I think it's really important now, because a lot of the people watching here, they are not world champion already. They will maybe be there if they train good. But I think that, like I see on my sailor, is like when the wind comes, it's like the combination with the steering and the main sail. But I think like it's for a lot of these sailors not maybe the best fit in the world. So also it's sometimes better to steer a little bit more than the main sheet work. Of course, the main sheet is really important, but it's much more heavy, and the reaction of the steering is much faster also. So I think it's combination with mainsail and the steering is the most important, so people can actually keep the average speed okay. Because I see if some people just drop out the main sheet, they go really low also.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking that a good training is just to open this range of possibilities for the sailors to understand what happens, and then for sure they will end up when they are full on after the start, that they can hike as maximum. They will be steering less and moving more main sheet on the breeze, but then they will be tired, the upper body will go in, and then the steering and the main sheet is important, and then it's a bit different if it's high or low what they want to go. That's why for me the key on this short talk is that all the coaches start to open up a little bit, and they try new things for the sailors,
But I think also it's really important to film, so people need to see themselves, because some of my sailor on my junior team, they are really good, and they say, I've been working so hard, back and forth, fighting really hard, and then they see the video, like shit, looks like they sit like a mummy, like complete still. So I think it's really important to use the video. Yeah. And also maybe have an iPad with them also, and they can actually see themselves straight away, so they can try to do something about it.
Yeah, we did. We do work a lot with the video, and I think it's a super important tool for us. And then we have another one that most of them they will be using most probably. It's a heart rate monitor, so we can also add this if needed, not to tell them what they are not doing, but to show them that they can do more. I think we need to be super positive, because the physical part is very hard, and we need to encourage them to work more, not to tell them that they are not working enough. I think this perspective is really, really important for the young kids. So yeah, I agree with you. Go, Line.
I think also it's really important to teach them what the best sailing is. So that you say, okay, if you can only go maximum hiking with rudder and sheet and everything for 15 seconds, at least do it every time, every speed run, every race, the first 15 seconds. And then, if you go slow after that, it's okay, but go for those 15 seconds, and next training it'll be 20 seconds and 30 and 40 and 50. And then in the end they can do it, but that you really learn what max speed is, and what max hiking is, and max effort, because it's so easy to tell the light sailors that, but you're small, so you can't sail in heavy wind, and that's okay. But really teach them what max hiking is. I mean, I didn't know what max hiking was until I came onto the Danish team, and literally every training, Peter would tell me like, nope, it's shit. Hike more, lower, faster, lower, faster. And I feel like I worked so hard, but it was just never good enough until it suddenly was. And I think it's really important also to push them really, really hard to really go for that max hiking position as well, so they know how it feels and know how long they can cope with it.
But I'm really agree, Lina. That's also is important to have short sessions. I'm laughing about people having session more than 2 hours because you can't push, and some people save some energy, and that's better to be before the training, be agreement the long of the training, and also say today we're gonna have shorter, but we're gonna have high pressure on the trainings, because I see some people have too long trainings. And I remember I was saying like I hated the long one. I want to go out, hike hard, push hard, and then go in. Because if you go for long trainings, really long ones, I think get used to this slow tempo. And when it comes to regatta, this is useless.
Yeah, you have coaches to plan the trainings of your team depending on the wind that you have, but make them active. And when the concentration gets low, especially with the young guys, change the activity, change the subject, change the environment, and make them enjoy what they are doing, pushing them, being positive, and pushing them to give us their maximum all the time. But I think this is also our task, to make the trainings good for them, but good meaning on the performance. Yeah, not enjoyable, not always enjoyable, but they need to perform and they need to improve afterwards. And we need to make it positive. We need to make it active. We need the way that we act is really important for the training, especially with the young guys. So it's up to us what the training will be and how the kids and the sailors will enjoy and improve their training. Yeah,
I think like now we see the Olympic sailor, they're older and older. It's like some of these guys are 16 to 18 and they're really disappointed for the results, but some guys, you're not like Herman Line, you get older. And when I did my Olympic campaign, I was like 26, 27 years old, and it's not take short time to be a good sailor, so people need to be. So that's the reason why the coaches just hold on a little bit, so they don't push them, so people get tired or hurt or injured and stuff like this. So because I really want my training when sailors come in after sailing, they actually want to do sailing the after or maybe straight after. That's my goal, so they actually have these skins. We don't burn out the sailors and everybody hates it. That's not really good.
Yeah, I agree with Per. At the level that we are now at the Olympic is we need to work harder and to make it to the limit, and we need to control these tempos. For the young guys, they need to come back happy, they had a really good training, and they want to come back the day after. That's a key, and it's up to us coaches to do that. But we've been only talking about hiking, and some races we don't hike, no? How do you sail the boat when it's light, Line? What's important for you when the wind is less than 10 knots, let's say?
For me, it's really important to keep the pressure in the boat. So if there's no waves, I'll still want to sail the boat flat as possible, maybe a little bit too flat, so almost a little bit of leeward heel. And if there is some waves, still as flat as possible, but sometimes I'll need to heel it a little bit to get some more pressure in. And I'll always want to have my shoulders outside of my hips. I always sit leaning out, because then you have a lot more control of the boat, control of your body. It's a lot easier to see the sail, see the waves, see what's happening around you, compared to if you sit in.
And to do that, you have your ass more in and your legs farther in. How do you position yourself to get that?
I
Because
usually
the goal
have...
is the goal is to have the upper body as far out as possible, to have your head out of the boat, no?
Yeah. So I try to position myself with. I usually have the back leg over the hiking strap, and if it's very light winds, I'll kind of like. Altså, jeg trykker ristroppen litt mot hverandre med beina. And in more wind or in closer to 10 knots, I'll put one foot or the back foot under the rail on the opposite side, the gray rail that's inside the cockpit on the other side, and the front foot under the hiking strap. So I lock it there as well. And then,
can you explain that in Norwegian? I think that this is so important for the light, what you are saying, that I would like to reinforce it. Yeah, starting from the body position and the head out of the boat. Yeah.
Så jeg vil alltid prøve å sitte med hoftene lenger inn enn skuldrene og hodet, så jeg alltid sitter lent utover i båten. For å gjøre det så pleier jeg å ha en fot, bakerste foten, over ristroppen. I veldig lite vind så vil jeg sitte og på en måte nesten krølle ristroppen litt mellom føttene, eller altså presse ristroppen mellom føttene, så jeg har god kontakt med båten. Langt fremover i båten, og så rumpa så langt inn som mulig, så jeg fortsatt kan sitte med skuldrene lent utover, så jeg har full oversikt over båten, og også mye bedre kontakt med core-muskulaturen i den lille vinden også, så jeg har full kontroll på mine egne bevegelser i båten. Og så jo mer vind det blir, jo lenger ut flytter jeg og rumpa, for jeg skal fortsatt holde båten flat. Og da kan jeg etter hvert sette den bakerste foten fortsatt på andre siden av ristroppen, men opp under den lille grå kanten, railen, vet ikke helt hva den heter på norsk. Ja, den grå listen på motsatt side setter jeg da bakerste foten under, så jeg får tærne akkurat inn under den bakerste, under den listen, og så får jeg den forreste foten låst under ristroppen, så mellom ristroppen og cockpiten foran, og der kan jeg på en måte igjen presse beina mot hverandre, så jeg er helt låst med beina i den posisjonen, og får igjen overkroppen lenger ut enn hoftene. I think I've done the positioning.
To add, Herman? Yeah. Herman, something to add?
No, I think I also sit the same way as Line, so she described it well. I think a lot of the important part is to feel that you're quite attached to the boat. Like the way Line described it here is that she gets attached to the boat, and the more attached to the boat you are, the more you dare to push your boat really flat, and the more you manage to keep it there. Because to try to make a sailor keep the boat flat without being attached to the boat, it's impossible to manage to keep the boat nice and flat without being attached. Then the boat is gonna go heel a little bit, and then heel to windward, heel to leeward. You need to be perfectly attached to manage to keep the boat flat.
But I also think it's important to sit, especially in real life, to sit forward in the boat, so you can make less water surface, especially on the back of the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You want to be far forward. The only problem is that when it's really light, you get a problem with the main sheet, and then you need to find a way to not block your main sheet, because you still want to work a little bit with the main sheet and try to play with that one, and while you're as far forward as possible.
We lost Herman.
Is my voice lost? No?
A little bit at the end.
I think your video is just after your sound, so it looks like you're talking for a lot longer.
Okay.
Yeah, but this was on the real light wind, no? And then we start to hike a little bit, put the upper body out, going from the rail to the two-strap, what do you change on your sail and your activity? Because as we said, on the downwind, it's very in the light wind, it's very important to be very well attached to the boat, no? Foot forward and the weight forward, and maybe it depends on the wave to play a little bit with the main sheet, yeah. Then the wind increases a little bit, we're going a little bit more out, you get the upper body more out. What else do you change on your position on the boat or your trimming on the boat? What's important when the wind increases a little bit?
But it's not like this. In light wind, you have especially really light, you have a flat sail. In medium wind, you get deeper sail, and strong wind, you have flatter again. So when we talk now before most light, then it's really flat. You sit inside the boat, you need to have a flat outhaul and bend the mast with the wang. Now we talk about maybe make the sail deep as possible almost. So you can start hiking fast as possible.
Yeah, that was I wanted the sailors to answer a bit what they are doing on the boat, no? To see what's important there, yeah? Yeah, flat sail, flat water, that's clear, with a little bit of tension on the kicker in the light wind, that's easy. And what Per said is super important. The wind starts to increase, I release a bit the outhaul so I can hike earlier. No? But what do you do then, Herman?
From there, when it increases?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you start to hike a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, when I start to hike, like as soon as you can get into the hiking strap, the better. Like you get a different feeling with the boat, and you're more attached, and you can, I can say, push all the movements you put into the boat gets a lot stronger once you're in the hiking strap. So yeah, as Per said, try to get the sail deep then, and then from there, I would start coming in on the outhaul a little bit, and then the Cunningham, start pulling the Cunningham more and more, and then like as soon as you can be block to block and you're not releasing too much main sheet, the Cunningham can be quite tight on the laser sail. As soon as you start releasing, or if it's so light that you start releasing that you're releasing the main sheet without kicker on. If you go hard with Cunningham, then you have a problem that every time you release the main sheet, you straighten out the mast and you get even more Cunningham on. And this is kind of the opposite of what you want. When it's really windy, you have a lot of kicker on, so then you don't straighten out the mast, so then it's no problem to put a lot of Cunningham on. And then from there, I would start, once I'm quite tight on the Cunningham, I would start pulling on the kicker a little bit to take out the power, and then start playing with the main sheet, and then pulling on, and then pulling on a little bit of everything until when it's really windy, I would be maxed out Cunningham, maxed out kicker, and then outhaul. I never want to pull the outhaul so tight that it comes up on the boom, because then I think it's impossible. It's a sail that is impossible to sail with. So always keep a little bit of shape at the bottom of the sail. It's, if not, it gets, you don't actually take out any power in the end there. You just make the sail really, really difficult to sail with.
On the standard rig, on the radial, is it the same on the radial, Line, or there are some difference here? Because I think that we can see some differences on the how you trim the sail or how active you are from the light to the top, no, or from the light to the strong wind.
Yeah.
How do you manage this transition?
Well, first of all, I think the radial, after trying to sail a bit of standard, I think the radial sail is a lot more forgiving. So you can still gain a lot from doing all the trimming, but you can have in medium light to medium strong winds, it's pretty forgiving, and you can be more focused on everything else until you get to a level where you really need to trim all the time, because the sail has a pretty good shape all the time. If you have a semi-loose outhaul, same with the Cunningham and same with the kicker. Actually, I don't think you need to pull a lot of Cunningham until you start pulling more kicker as well.
So here we see a difference, no? On the laser standard, we want the maximum Cunningham as possible, yeah, as soon as we want to flat the sail. On the radials, you are not so much into it. On the laser standard, we have a deeper outhole. On the radials, you can flat the sail earlier. No, it's more forgiving. Yeah. And then what makes more important for you, Line? On the radial, when you start to get some pressure to hike earlier, and then what do you focus at? So let's start again. We are on the light wind. The wind starts to increase. You start to hike. What are you focused on? Body position.
I try to trim the sail, as Herman said as well, so I can hike as much as possible. That will always be faster to hike more. So as soon as the wind increases, so I can sit with my legs, or I want to, as fast as possible, I want to hike, even if it's just from the rail. I want to hike a lot. So I'll start with the outhaul and the kicker quite loose, and then tighten it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until I'm out full hiking. And then starting pulling a little bit of Cunningham, and then making sure that the moment I feel like it's so strong wind that I need to release the sheet, that at that point my kicker is also fully tightened, because to start releasing the sheets to letting out power before you've depowered your sail is only going, it's a double negative, so you'll actually just get more power into your sail if you haven't tightened all the lines properly yet.
So to me, this is a very important point for the youngsters, no? When you cannot hike more, what's the first thing that you think? Release main sheet, flat the sail. What do you advise as coaches to do on the radial?
Start with the Cunningham and kicker and go a lot more than you think you can go. Marit is one of the best radial sailors in the world, and she mostly has the hole in the sail next to the boom or under the boom. So that means that you need to take both the Cunningham ropes on the same side, which is also different from the standard because I don't think you can pull as much Cunningham. You need to have both ropes on the same side of the boom, and you need to pull a lot more than you think. And same with the kickers, you need to be sure that the blocks are all the way up to the top of the kicker when it's completely loose, so you have a lot to pull on down, because you can pull a lot more than you think. And once you get all that power out of the sail, it's a completely different boat to sail. So then once you have to start releasing the sheets, make sure that that Cunningham is in. Kicker, if it's a lot of waves or very choppy, be a little bit careful with the Cunningham maybe, but kicker, go for it.
And how do you attack then? How is attack?
It's hard, but it's possible. And if you keep capsizing, maybe you let go of the kicker a little bit. I usually don't.
So that's a trick.
Yeah.
Try a little bit, no, with a maximum kicker to see what's your limit, no? On the radial especially.
What? Sorry.
On the radial, after you pull all this kicker, it's the attack is not so easy, no?
No.
So any tip?
Hard. Go fast and go with full confidence, and get flexible enough. Some sailors aren't actually flexible enough to get under, and go sideways. So you go not between your legs, but under the boom, all the way in the middle of the cockpit. There's a small room that you can get through with some speed, and make sure that your life jacket isn't too big, so that you have a life jacket and maybe a bib over it, so you won't get stuck with small stuff. And then speed in, speed out.
And when you talk about the speed, is your speed from side to side, or is the boat crossing the wind really fast?
Well, both. You don't
so
want
it's
to.
A fast.
Yeah, or you want a lot of speed into the tack, boat speed wise. You want to be really fast going into the tack as well, because then once you start the turn, you don't get stuck head to wind. And then you want to be very fast from one side. You want to be full hiking and start the steering, and then straight in and straight out again. And full hiking on the other side right away. And if you're fast enough on that, you can't get stuck under the boom.
So just try, no? Try as much as you can. Yeah.
And if you're very tired, sometimes I loosen up the kicker as well. If I'm very tired, it's the third race of the day or whatever, I'll sometimes cave as well and loosen up the kicker a little bit. Or if I'm, in a position where I have lots of space and there's not much to lose, I can sometimes loosen up the kicker to do a safe tack, but mostly I'll want to keep it on.
Oh, that's good. I have some videos on the standard to show some different positions in the middle and the strong winds, but I see that there is a nice question that maybe breaks all these explanations. And I think that how long can you keep the ultimate top speed after the start, and how is the pulse among the top boats? Herman, that's for you.
Yeah,
but I think you answer,
yeah. It of course depends a little bit from sailor to sailor, but I would say around 2 minutes we can probably keep quite a good pace. After 2 minutes, we definitely need to. Yeah, you need to start thinking about the bigger picture. If you start going any further than 2 minutes, it's easy that you have too high heart rate when you come to the first tack and you manage to make a big mistake there, and there was not actually any point in pushing so hard. But then, of course, this push, it also depends a little bit. Like if you have a good start and you're all lined up on starboard, you will push, and then you kind of need to always, you have to decide where you want to do the push. And on starboard tack, you have someone trying to roll you. You will of course try to push until you're safe, even if it might make a problem later in the race. And then the heart rate, I would say, usually we can get up to around. I at least can get up to around 183, 184, something like this on an upwind, and I have maximum 191, 190, something like this.
So it's very close to the top. Yeah.
Yeah. But you get the thing with sailing is that your heart rate can get very, very high, but it's not like if you look at your heart rate compared to if you would have done let's say cycling intervals for the same amount of time as you've been out racing for a day, or the same amount of time as you spent in the high heart rate zones, you would have no chance of keeping it on a bike or something like this. So it is a little bit different when you're sailing, because you're not breathing with your whole. You're so, let's say, locked up with your core muscles that you don't actually manage to breathe as well as you would have done on a bike, which makes your heart rate or pushes up your heart rate a little bit. At least that's what. I don't know exactly the.
For me as a coach, what we try to train this, and when it's not in the beginning of the season, because the guys come a little bit too fresh and working a lot on the physical part, but after a couple of weeks or a month of training, what we do is a lot of series. We do 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, then tack 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and then we increase to 3. And in some moments, we do a super boring speed test for the sailors, which is the first one is 2 minutes, the second one is 4 minutes, and the third one is 7 minutes. And you have a group of boats, you can see that maybe on the 2 minutes they can be at their maximum, but then on the 7 minutes test, they need to realize what's important, when I need to push. If I have a boat leeward to me, how much can I push? Or the boat is trying to roll me from windward. And these 7 minutes, I think, makes them aware of what's the maximum and how much they can hold it, and what's really clever to do on the boat. When to slow down a little bit, when to breathe, when to push back again.
Yeah, so that's a very important point, that you need to. It is definitely, like Frode is mentioning, a tactic around when you want to push up to your maximum, because the chance of you making mistakes in tacks and things like this, is of course a lot higher when you're at your maximum heart rate, and also your ability to think on the wind shifts and things like that gets suffer from having that high heart rate. And then also whether you can get something out of pushing. Like if you're in a tight position on another boat, have a really tight position that you can't actually, like you're behind him and you can't actually overtake him from that position, then it's not actually much point in you trying to spend all your energy there, because you're never gonna manage to go a lot faster than him anyway. Then it might be better to just start pinching up a little bit and try to gain the height instead of trying to take everything out in boat speed. While on the other side, you can have, sometimes you are on the left ley line and you see the whole fleet underneath you, and you see, okay, if I push everything I have now for 3 minutes, I'm gonna round the top 5, and if I don't go fast these last 3 minutes, I'm gonna end up inside the group, coming on port into the ley line, and I'm gonna have a really hard time getting a position there. So it's always, so it's always a tactical decision around this when you want to spend all your energy as well.
Yeah, and for us coaches, just to let them understand this to the sailors, and helping them is doing short but very, very intense, medium, at their maximum level they can, and then a little longer one like this 7 minutes that we do, for them to get their own pace. Yeah? But they need to have the boats around, because the other boats will be with a different pace, and they need to realize how they can work with their own and how they can get the best technique out of these minutes. And one thing that the most of the young guys, they forget is to breathe. So coaches look at their sailors, how they breathe and when they breathe, because that's the key to keep the hiking longer and better. And some of
the
them
young guys who forget this. Huh?
Yeah, also you also. Yeah, it's a super important one and very easy. But when you are tense, you just get the tension on your body and your face, and then they breathe much worse. So if you look at the sailor's face, you will see them with more tension on their mouth and around the mouth, and then it's important to remind them that they need to breathe. Yeah, and you will see this.
I think you had a good comment to me about this once, Anton. You said that because I always got very stressed if I came into a little lull or a little period of waves, or not waves, but if I came into a short period with a bit of less wind when I was full hiking, and then be super stressed to get into full hiking and to like get into where the more wind was. Then you said, no, this is a great moment to breathe. Just sit in 2 seconds, 2 deep breaths, look around, and then go again. And I think it's a very good thing to remember, especially when you're young and you, as you say, forget to breathe very easily. If you do get a small lull, instead of getting super stressed, take that time to take 2 big breaths, because it'll make a huge difference.
Yeah, because when we are tired, what our vision does is just to narrow down like this. So we need to force ourselves to get this out and to look around. So I will suggest to say, guys, what is happening around? During this 7 minutes period, for example, go behind a young guy and say, and now what the others are doing? So try them to open their eyes, to look around, to look what is happening when they are really tired. And this will make them move the head out, looking outside, which tactically is really important, but also it's a movement that will make them breathe and get out of the position that they had. Yeah. So I think we can help them a lot on this as well. Well, questions? Let me see if I have some here already. We start with some activity. Here, you will see 2 different styles, one from Karl and one from Herman. He has the boat heeling more and much more active with the steering. And Herman tries to get the boat flatter also on these waves and get a more straight line, so less steering. Herman, There will be some sound from the wind, so maybe you can comment after. Well, what can you say, Herman?
Yeah, you can see Carlo there. He's a big guy. He's 190, 191, 192. You can see he has when you're that tall, it's very, very hard to keep your upper body out all the time. Like keeping straight out all the time is it's nearly impossible. But what you can see, where he's gaining and does a very good job is once the waves are coming, you can see at that moment he puts his upper body out and keeps his boat quite stable. Like a little bit of heel on the boat is not a big danger as long as you manage to not have the boat rolling all the time. So you can see he still tries to keep his boat quite stable. And then for me, I'm not as tall, so I keep my upper body a little bit more out. And I would have more. Carlo is more on bigger movements with his upper body, like big, longer movements. I would be a little bit more on smaller movements, like you maybe saw there. And then the kind of the main techniques that we both would go for is that we try to, again, you want to make a little bit of this S-turns, like this one I think comes back in sailing almost all the time. You want to go or release the main sheet, accelerate the boat, and then come up and try to use that speed up again. But then it's to try to find the right moment to release the main sheet and to accelerate the boat. And once you want to accelerate the boat, it's a really important time that you at least then keep your upper body out or keep maximum power in the boat, and so you can get the speed up as soon as possible. And if you need to rest, or if you want to the moment to rest a little bit is actually when you're coming in on the main sheet and steering up. That's the moment where if you need a rest, that's the moment I would try to make the resting period inside your technique. Then for the sitting position, when it's this windy, I would try to be quite far back. And especially in the times when especially when I try to accelerate the boat, I would push more on my back leg and try to keep as much or keep more weight in the back of the boat, which makes the boat easier to accelerate. While when I come up trying to point, I would try to keep more pressure on my front leg so my bow doesn't start jumping. Because
Sorry, Herman. When you say that you move a lot backwards with the breeze, how much is this, and what's more or less the position inside the cockpit for us to understand? Are we talking about?
It's hard to say exactly. Like 30 centimeters probably from the front, something like this. 30, yeah. And this again, you have to feel a little bit, and it depends how you're sailing the boat. If you're pointing more, you need to hike a little bit further forward. If you're going low mode, if you need to go low, I would. And if I see that, okay, now I need to go low for a long period, then I would move a little bit further backwards in the boat as well.
And for us coaches, I think it's if we just go leeward and we see the boat from leeward, and then we see the boat if the bow is jumping or not, and we can compare the positions. So we can help a lot of our sailors just moving from the back that we are used to just leeward of the boats, and then you see the boat that is faster. Where is he seated or she seated? And then you can go to your sailors and say, well, you need to move forward or backwards. And this will change completely how the boat behaves and how they feel it.
I think also for the sailors, it's easy. It's good to just always be aware that if you feel that your boat keeps like slamming very hard down in the waves, probably move a little bit forward. And if you keep like getting stuck into the waves and keep getting water into your boat, move a little bit backwards. So you can also just be aware of it like that as a rule of thumb.
And also it's easy that you, like out of the start, for instance, you're working really hard backwards with the upper body, and then it can feel good to still be quite far forward in the boat because you're working so much that you're anyway working your bow above the waves. And you're usually, if you're pushing really hard, you would make a lot of pushes backwards. But then once you start getting more tired, you'll have more and more problems getting your bow over the waves, and you start filling the boat more and more. And then moving a little bit backwards will help being able to keep the speed, still keep the speed, even when you're not at pushing your 100%.
Yeah, I hope it was clear. Per, you were super good on this breeze. What was your feelings on the boat and what you wanted to do upwind with the waves and a strong breeze?
My steering was the most important. So when you go up a wave, we try to make the hill short as possible. So you steer up in the wind, and you try to go down like lower when you're going down the wave, so you can get somewhere out of it. I think sit right in the boat in the place where the boat is widest. This is really important because I was quite short. I was just 180 tall, and Robert and Ben, my biggest competitor, they was taller. So I need to find this small solution to make some small thing. I know now, like Herman and some other guys use double buttons in the hiking pants to get longer out. But I was why they went so fast? Because I tried when I pulled the Cunningham, when I pulled out all, I tried to understand what's happened. And then when I get this knowledge, then I use it more because people was used like just pull the Vang, pull the Cunningham and just hike. But I tried to find a solution. Then had my feeling when I tuned the sail was better and it was more easy for me to sail. But in strong wind, there was like the whole combination. But back to everything is like maybe a little out of this thing. But the guys put more hour into it, they will win on it. So it's no secret here. And of course, Herman is extremely good these days because he trained really hard. And also the best guys train really hard. So it's difficult to just say one thing why I'm so fast or Herman is so fast. It's the whole combination here.
Yeah, and a lot of hours and a lot of going out with the breeze, and to raise the sailors' limit. That's also important because in the beginning 20 knots looks a lot. Then we need to train with 22, 23, and then they will get used to that, and then we can go to 25, and and then from 25 knots. We can work on train on 30, and then the races on 25 knots will look much easier. So I will say that in a safe environment, try to sail on the strongest breeze as possible with the sailors. Yeah. How much time do you have, Jens? I have a lot of videos. Your microphone is to turn it on, please.
We said that we could go on until 9:30.
Okay.
We have to do as you do on the water, go to the limit.
Okay, here we are. So I would like then to show one more upwind video with 2 different techniques. It's a little bit lighter, but I think we can see the difference between Herman and Jesper, which Herman tries still to get the boat as flat as possible, but Jesper likes to heel it and be more active. So we can see a little bit of the difference on a different wind strength. Yeah. Herman, you comment at the end as well, or with Line?
Yeah, you can see here both of us are quite flat and attached to the boat. Maybe Jesper with a tiny bit more heel. Not a big difference. Now you saw, I felt I came a little bit too close to him, so I tried to release up to get more power in everything, to be able to pinch more and still keep myself hiking. That's my thought here. And then here I'm a little bit, I get a small lift, I think, as well, but then it helps to to get up, to be able to pinch up a little bit.
So how do you pinch better?
What?
The pinch is something we need to explain a little bit.
Yeah, like pinch, try to keep the height or to steer a little bit higher. I think the important part of doing that is to not try to steer higher all the time, but to choose the moment when you can steer higher. Steering high when you're getting into a choppy period of waves is no point. You need to. So I still in this moment I still need to not get too stressed about having Jesper there. So I still need to keep the speed in the boat, but I need to use the speed I get to get as high as possible. And this needs to be timed with the moment of the wave, or with a moment when the water is quite flat and it's not too much waves.
So you are thinking now that you are getting close to Jesper, that he's pinching, and then you change your trimming, as we can see soon. Yeah, I'm trying to do this.
Yeah.
And as soon as you change your trim, we could see that the boat starts to go higher and better, and you end up with more distance to the leeward boat.
Yeah, here I also get a small lift. I'm quite lucky that it's timed with a small lift as well. So in general, I probably would have given up. Here, I actually end up more or less. It looks like I'm just getting a better VMG mode, but I think it's because I get a small lift as well. In general, I would give away a little bit of the speed to point up, to point more up in that moment.
So to summarize a little bit, with these wind conditions, when you see the boats, if they are pointing, you try to follow the leeward boat. No, if you can run on top of them, you try to kill the leeward boat. But the important game is with the leeward and windward boat.
Yeah, and to keep the boat. Yeah, like all the time, I would like to keep the boat quite flat. And in the wind like there, I have almost no kicker on. Maybe just a tiny bit I had in the beginning, and then it's more the outhaul that makes the difference on the pressure or on the power you have. So I release the small kicker I had on, and then I release the outhaul a little bit to get more power in the sail.
And what are you thinking on these moments? Because one thing that I believe is really important is that to survive on some situations, we coaches, we work a lot on helping you to be as fast as possible and to be the strongest one and to get the boat going as fast as possible and so on. But in these moments, we coaches, we are not there. What are you thinking? How can you escape from these tight positions, tight situations like this one with Jesper, for example?
I think the thought is to not try to change, or to try and change the right things, because it's easy that you start trying to change everything, that you change the whole technique, and you get too stressed about having someone lever to you, because the main thing is that you still need to be able to, you still need to keep the speed, because the speed is what's going to give you the pointing. If you just try to point, you're just going to drift sideways. So you need to get the speed and then use that speed to get up. So it's yeah, my thought is to keep quite calm and then just try to find the right moments, not stress and try to force it up straight away, but try to find a moment where it's actually okay. Now this is a chance I have, and then try to just slide as much up as possible.
So on the stressful moments, be as calm as possible.
Yeah, basically.
Something like this, yeah. I remember with Christian, Ruth, and Frode, that Frode said to me, in these moments what we found out with Christian is that he was moving his upper body forward, have the bow down, and he could steer as long as he wanted on the wake of the other boat, and a closer situation than this one, no? And Christian was super good at that, keeping the position there for a really long time. And that's just be calm and be positive and believe on your things, apart from these details, technical details. But I would like to say to the coaches, in these type situations, make your sailors more calm, more positive, and believing that they can survive hard situations. Yeah. And for you, Line, are emotions important there as well, or no?
Yes, I usually, well, the not stressing part is my biggest idea in this as well. I usually always, if I feel slow compared to other boats, the problem is that I'm doing too much. So I always, if I have a bad day speed-wise, I try to tell myself that less is more, and very often it is. So, and by less is more, I mean less body movements, less steering, less sheets, and then slowly just putting in exactly what I need, not doing all the extra small movements, only doing one movement exactly the moment I need to, instead of sitting like, you can always see like the Opti sailors that just comes from the Opti, they sit like this all the time because they've learned, or in the Opti, they need to sit like this all the time. So if I'm trying to get out from a situation that's tight with a boat close to the leeward side, I always tell myself that less is more, and then try to really focus on the important movements. So really making sure my shoulders are outside of my hips and keeping that pressure all the time, as flat boat as possible. Never leeward heel, but just keeping the pressure in the boat. Less movements, maybe a little bit looser kicker and Cunningham as well. I want to make sure that I have more pressure. But yeah, I agree. Less is more.
Yeah, but to me, it's really important. Well, Lynn and Herman, they are saying that is first. Herman said that I did release when I had a flatter period of water, so I'm not releasing the controls whenever. I'm trying to look outside of my boat also in these different situations. Then I can change my style, moving a little bit forward or backwards, depends on the wave situation. If I want to point or to go low, then I change, like Lina said, also my kicker and my outhold to make my sail different for this situation that I have in front of me. And the physical part with this upper body out is very important. The core here is what it takes. You need to work a lot on the core, so the core work on the gym is important in these situations as well, and the mental part, because we didn't talk a lot about the mental part, but the biggest part of the game is mental on this. So the one that can play these moments better than the opponents are the ones that are winning, or they're losing less. So be positive always. Try to make it positive. Try to understand how your sailors are thinking to make them thinking as positive as possible in this, and train the tight situations and train the stressful situations. that's also a key factor, no? What do you think for these kids, Per? All these things, how can you express it better for the coaches? How do you work with your club sailors on all these stressful and moments?
Oh, I try them to learn how to trim the boat. So when you are in a tight situation, I try them to if there are some people try to roll them, I try to tune the boat a little flatter and go lower. And when some people come from lower position up, I try them to release and go higher. That's like the first thing I would try to do, and also try to recognize quite as fast as possible. The faster you can see it, you more chance to survive. So I think that's the tuning have a lot of things to say, but it's when some people come from under and up, it's tough to defeat your position. But if you have a lot of experience and try and tune a boat in the right way, you should try to can maybe stay a bit longer. That's we just trying. So we have this basic of how to set up the boat. Of course, there are always a different way, but we try to make a basic for everybody. That's like I do. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to have like a basic rule for the team, and then go more deeply into the needs of every sailor. Because if it's a light wind sailor or a heavy sailor, they can do different things. But I think that the basics we have to explain them to all the group, and then go into the details with each of them.
But I think actually the most important for the sailors is to try to be a little bit tough and open, a little bit tough to ask some other sailors from advice and some tips. I think when some young guys come into Herman and ask some questions, I think actually Herman appreciates it because he thinks, they ask about things Herman can answer quite good. Also, I think it is nice to help people, and that's the only way to learn is just to asking. Because sailing have no faucet,
You can ask me as well.
Sailing have like no faucet. It's like some different ways. So yeah. So like I can have my opinion. You can have your opinion. But that's the reason why people should ask.
Yeah, I agree.
It's tough. That's the reason why Steven, our legend trainer, he said you should always go some races by yourself. No coach. You need to ask to join other group and try to, because normally when you travel as a team, you always stay together with your team. But that's really good to be by yourself sometimes. You try to go into team and learn some from other teams, because we have been training this Olympic team and we have different countries together, and always some countries are really good on one thing and not so good on one thing. And if you are a big team, we can learn from each other.
Yeah. And one of the things that I was more surprised when I entered in this Norwegian team was the way that all the sailors were talking and asking things, and all this communication inside the team for me was magnific. That we were raising questions and answering questions between the five of us, when it was Henrik and Christian, Matthias and Herman. And I started my first meeting or debrief talking and explaining things until Matthias stopped me and said, Anton, I think it's better if we all interact here. I said, well, very happy with this. Let's move. And since then, the way that we improved the most, in my view, was having the communication between the sailors. So we also do that now in our international group, that the sailors, we coaches, we moderate more or less the debriefs. They are the ones that are explaining and talking to each other. We have to organize the things, we have to get them ready for the talks, but they are the ones that are asking questions to the others. At the club level, I think that you guys, you coaches, you need to be more the leaders, but leave room for them to express themselves and to learn from themselves and from the other sailors as well. At the Olympic level, these guys, they know more than us, so it's they are the ones that need to talk about what they did on the boat. Yeah? We need just to provide the tools and make them as good as possible with the trainings that we will plan. But from the club, I think a mix of you setting the base, talking, explaining, having a good plan, and then opening it up to the sailors to discuss between them. That would be a key factor, and that did work really well in our team when we were all the Norwegians working together. Well, I have a lot more videos and from different things, but one that I would like to, because we don't have much time to see, I have stars, I have more upwinds, more downwinds, but I would like to discuss a little bit about the tags and the difference on the tags. If I can change the subject, tags and jibes. Maybe the easiest are the jibes, which most of you know. We have two different techniques for the very light wind or for when there is a lot of pressure. How will you explain that for them, Line? The light wind. Do you use the main sheet from the back? You take the main sheet from the back as well to jibe?
Yes, I do. There's actually.
Do you want to explain in Norwegian or will be okay in
yeah,
English?
It might be easier to take in Norwegian.
Yeah.
Så det en jib hvor man tar direkte tak i skjøtet bak fra blokken bak, så man tar tak i begge de to tauene som går fra bommen og ned til blokken bak, for å få det over, for å få det raskere, enklere over og fortere ut på andre siden. Man kan da enten gå direkte og fiske opp tauene bak med rorkultforlengeren, så man kan på en måte legge båten flat, litt lekreng, fiske opp med rorkultforlengeren, ta tak i skjøtene bak med den bakerste hånden. Blir det bakerste? Ja. Bakerste hånden. Og så drar man bommen med skjøtene bak der. Det blir også mindre kursendring, men litt kursendring over på andre siden, og prøver å holde igjen i de to skjøtene så lenge, eller helt til seilet begynner å fylle seg igjen, og prøver å få et lite pump med det, som en lekreng. Seilet fyller seg igjen, dra ned, og så slipper skjøtet etter at man har tatt og satt ned pumpet. Det er kanskje enklere hvis man har det på noen film. Jeg vet at de har noen gode filmer på det på YouTube, blant annet, hvor man kan søke på light wind.
I have one jibe.
Yeah, you have a video?
Yeah.
Yeah. Her regner jeg med at de tar skjøtet bak, altså at de får så stor lokreng som mulig, og så fisker opp skjøtet. Nei. Okay, I explained it with the leeward pump as well, but
well, this is the video.
Anyway.
This is the video that I got here.
Yeah. Ja, så her er det ikke noe lepump til slutt. Her slipper de skjøtet så fort som mulig ut, så dette er en veldig god jib å gjøre hvis man vil rett ut på negativ så fort som mulig, så får man skjøtet og bommen langt ut med en gang, så man kan fortsette på en negativ vinkel så fort som overhodet mulig. Ja, det er jo det. Man kan gjøre jibben for to grunner. Det kan være veldig bra for mye fart fremover hvis man ikke må på negativ med en gang. Og ellers er det en veldig god jib å ta hvis man vil fra negativ til negativ for å få så mye, eller altså for å komme så fort som mulig over på vinkel på nytt da.
When do you use this jibe? When is useful, do you think?
Pretty much unless I'm very close to the marks, so I want to jibe to gain a lot of speed or to jibe onto a positive angle. I pretty much always use it when it's under 10 knots. I'll use it, as I just said in Norwegian, if I want to go straight to a very negative angle, because then the sheet is already all the way out. And if you do the normal jibe, your sheet will be far in. It'll take you a long time to get the sheet or the boom all the way out and then to steer back to negative. Yeah.
The most common thing is that you put the boom on the water and then you slow down the boat a lot, no? When you start to practice this, or it doesn't matter to put the boom on the water?
Before or after the jibe?
When?
Well, I think if you need to practice it to make it good. So maybe start practicing it on training and not in regattas, but start practicing it anyway. It's a really good, especially in the girls' fleet. Actually, there's not that many girls who does this jibe. At least not often, and definitely not a lot of girls who knows how to do it good enough to make a big gain. But there's very big gains to be made from it. So once you learn how to do it properly, it's a very efficient way of jibing.
And on the standard fleet, do you use it, Herman?
Yeah, I use it a lot. I think there's a few points that are very important to make it work. I think this how you steer on the angle through the jibe is really important, because you want to change the angles quite a lot, and it affects how if you manage to get the main sheet out on the other side. Because if you do it wrong, your main sheet will just end up in the middle of the boat with this jibe as well. So it's very important that you steer correctly. And what I think the easiest way to make the main sheet or to keep the main sheet in the steering right is that you want to, in the beginning you're by the lee, and then you push the boat down and then pull the main sheet towards you. And while you do that, you actually steer more up towards a more positive angle, because then you have the main sheet in and you are making a positive pump, and then you want to be on the positive angle to get as much as possible out of that pump. So you steer up to positive while pulling the boat towards you, and then you change back to, and then you pull the boat over, and then you steer back and pull the boom over, and then you're on positive on the opposite side, pull down, and then go over by the lee. So it's important to make that last pump on positive before you go over to by the lee again. It might be a little bit difficult to understand.
But it's a very big turn, no? That you do.
Yeah, you want to make quite big turns, and this is like, of course, at the same time you want to make the pumps as much straight towards the mark as possible. But when you start practicing this, I would advise to start changing the angles and feeling when you actually manage to fill the sail, because the most important part of it is that your sail is filled as quick as possible on the other side. It doesn't matter how big your pumps are if you're like, you need the sail to get as quickly as possible out, and that's more important than making big pumps. And then you can start adding bigger and bigger pumps on it.
And normal jibe with a little bit more pressure. Any tip? I don't have any video of this jibe. I thought that more or less everybody will know. But any tip to jibe correctly?
Positive to that would be positive to positive then. So more from a reaching angle to a reaching angle. Then we pull through the ratchet block. I would advise to get enough main sheet in, that you start by heeling the boat a little bit to leeward, manage to get enough main sheet in, and then once you make the pump, make a big enough steer so you end up on a good positive angle, and then pull it down. This is for a little bit lighter winds, and then when it's stronger, I would advise to just try to make as little angle as possible, actually, because then when it's so strong that the wind is anyway, like you're not going to get any pump out of it, try to not do the angle too long. So how can you say, in Norwegian we call it kontrastyre. So once the sail is starting to come over, you have managed to make the boom come over, start steering down again. It's the same way as you have to do in all this in the keel boats as well, if you don't want to, or in a lot of the keel boats as well. So you kind of need to steer with a Gennaker. You need to steer down to not get too much power, and that's in the laser you wouldn't get too much power, but you end up doing less distance towards the mark.
And how to pull the main sheet, no? In for the main sheet not to get stuck on the corner of the boat, because that's with club sailors, and with a little bit younger sailors, that's something quite common, no? You
Yeah, it's
jibe
what
and all the main sheet stuck in the corner. How to solve this?
Yeah, it's why everyone hates the laser the first time they try it, because they just end up with a main sheet around the corner. But it's in the end you almost never do it anymore. It's just you need to tighten up the main sheet through the jibe, so you pull to get the boom over, and you need to that once you make the pull that you pull so hard that the whole main sheet is tight through the jibe. And if you don't have it tight through the jibe, you can make a second pull just to like tighten it up through just when the boom is coming over as well. So the main thing is just make sure that your main sheet is reasonable, that you're kind of pulling up the main sheet through the jibe.
No questions in Norwegian? No, then we'd like to go shortly on the tacks. We realized that tacking well on the flat water, on the choppy, or on the swell, it brings us a big advantage. Herman is something that is really focused on how to tack in every condition, depending on the wave angle, if it's a fast, a slow tack, if it's crossing the bow really quick, or we need to cross the bow slowing much slower. So I think that this is something that you coaches, you can also practice with the sailors and try to do a lot of tacking, but focus on which one is the best tack for every condition, no? And to summarize, flat water, light wind. Herman, how do you tack?
Quite long tack, and try to manage to keep the power in the sail as long as possible going into the tack, and then get a lot of main sheet out and a lot of power out of the tack on the other side, and a good pump. And then when you don't pump on a straight line, try to pump a little bit go a little bit underneath your upwind angle, and then pump, like steer up again towards that angle.
We have I have a video here from one of the young Finnish sailors that he was doing really good tacks in one of the trainings. So Per also liked this one, no? Per, what did you like from these tacks from this guy? Remember?
Yeah, I just need the timing is amazing. I think when we saw a little bit more wind, it was actually he had some really good job. I've never seen any person in my whole life driving and attacking like this guy. He's amazing in boat handling because you have this timing is so really good. We saw every time we're attacking, he catch up 1 or 2 boat lanes every time, and it don't look so difficult, but you know it's difficult. But this is a really good video because here is not so much way. So what do you think yourself, Anton?
I really like the way that he just crosses the. So now, for example, that he heels the boat to leeward. He heels the boat to leeward. He puts the rudder in, releasing a little bit, pulling block to block here. And in this moment, he does the second pump because the sail is still with the all wind. And now he does a pump with the steering to cross the bow, jumping straight to the other side. Changing the hands in this moment is not easy. With the rudder pretty straight. And then when the boat is flat, he's coming in. Because he was hiking, he comes in, and when he's in with the boat flat, rather straight, back again with the main sheet to make the last pump.
I think the best thing for me when I see this tack, when you feel the sail have the wind, then they pull the boat over, because I see sometimes people are a little too slow, or when they do too fast and no power in the sail. So I think this is a really good video. I think a lot of people can learn from.
So this is a flat water with this wind, and now here we have a different one from Herman with their hiking, and the bow crosses quicker. And the last pom is still hiking on a hiking position. So I believe that we need to change the technique for every single situation. I didn't get all the tags that we have work on, but light wind, no, a lot of healing, crossing the bow slowly, big turn, a little bit more pressure, hiking, start to hike. We try to cross the bow as fast as possible to hike to the other side. And then when we have strong breeze and waves, how do you tack with all this kicker on, Line? Yeah.
Well, I think I already explained a little bit, but I think two of the things that is really important is speed in and speed out of the tack. So it's easy to think before attacking a lot of wind, especially for sailors who are a little bit less experienced, that they can think like, oh, it's finally time to rest. But this is actually the time you need to put in the most work, so that you 5 seconds before the tack get as much speed as possible, and then think of speed again straight after the tack. So really important to train the switching of the hands behind the back while you change sides, and also to get straight out to hiking. You get preferably 2 feet under the hiking strap straight away, because then you have a lot more power to push down with when you come out from the tack. Or if you just have one, just as long as you go speeds straight away, because going head to wind in a lot of wind will of course stop your boat a lot. So if you can manage to really, your goal is kind of to lose as little speed as possible, because you will lose, you can't gain on attack in heavy wind, but to really go for maximum speed in and maximum speed out. And to do this, you need to make sure that your sheet is a little bit out when you come out, and full hiking, I think, is the most important.
And any tip for how to change the hands while you're attacking? We've seen this Finnish guy on the light wind. Because if I start to tack now on the laser, the other day I jumped on the laser and I could not even tack. I didn't remember how to change my hands. Any tip for me to start again?
I think it could be good to start in lighter winds and start only training that. So you start just by training with sitting on the leeward side, standing up, changing hands behind your back, and then sitting down and do the small pump. And also make sure that you're far enough forward just when you try to change hands, because the tiller extension is very long. So first, maybe even try on shore, just move from one side to the other in the cockpit if you have a stable trolley, and literally just see how you change, how it's possible to change hands behind the back, and then start in lighter winds, do only the change, so kind of make the tack into 3 different parts. It's the going into the tack, and it's the middle where you change, and the going out again. And you don't do the rest of the tack, you only do the heeling from the wrong side of the boat and then going over, changing, and then doing it in more wind and more wind and more wind, because it's the same technique, it's just done faster in more wind, and you gain so much from having the change done.
Yeah, because that's what I want to say. I think the most difficult part of the biggest win is, or biggest loss is on this changing moment, no? Mm-hmm. What do you focus at, Herman, then, on this changing? How do you practice that?
I completely agree with Line. Also, make sure that you have dropped some main sheet out through the tack. because you want to be block to block going into the tack and just going through head to wind, just to keep the traveler block, to keep some tension on the traveler block, so it goes easier over the tiller. But then on the other side, once it's gone over, make sure that you release some main sheet, because it's a lot easier to make the change behind your back with a little bit released main sheet. Because if you're too tight on the main sheet, you can't get that main sheet hand over on the tiller extension. So, or you need to like slide it through your hand. But if you actually have released some that you should beforehand, it makes it a lot easier. All this movement. And then I would say, once people have started getting a hold of this change, just try to. The feeling you get when you have make a good tack is that you should. Your main thought should be to make this change as soon as possible on the other side, and then with the movement that you kind of attach that movement of changing hands with the movement of going out hiking. So when you see people, the most common mistake is that you end up hanging there with your arm without having been able to make the change, and with the steering behind your back, and everything should go in one movement. So you should throw your body out, and at the same time you should make the change of the tiller extension or change of hand behind your back.
I think this is quite difficult to express for all of us, but it will be much easier if you find any of us on the sailing club, and because Line, Herman, Per can explain easily on a boat how to do it, how to do this change. But it's a very important point to train for all the sailors here. Yeah.
Anton.
Yeah.
I think that we are at the end for tonight. But I think you just said the most important thing. Ask questions. Ask them when you meet them. Be curious. Go on asking. So Per, Herman, Line, and Anton, I really want to thank you for sharing all valuable experience and knowledge. You are indeed very generous, all four of you. This is the only way we all can become better and then do a better job helping Norwegian sailors better and helping them getting more happy. Guys, we can go on discussing all night. We have been discussing for 4 hours. People that say that we do Teams seminars for 4 hours think we're crazy. But thank you all again. Good night.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And thank you very much for sharing and inspiring. I've made many notes, and I think also it's important to comment for all the youth sailors coaches that I think it's really dangerous to copy Herman and Line's technique on hiking, on toe strapping, on positioning on the boat, but find your own position and find your own technique. And thank you very much all involved. Really good.
I have to say that working with sailors as Line and Herman makes it very simple, because they are eager to improve, eager to explore, eager to become better. So, and I think that this is, as coaches, we need to put in our sailors' genes. Try to explore, try to become better. Enjoy the hard work that is around this. And enjoy sailing.